Chapter 1341. Xiao Bei, come here. Where's Su Yilong? Without waiting for Xiao Bei to finish, Wang Wan shouted first, then stared at Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao seemed to be very wronged and said, "There's only one sentence. The content is different. Don't you think this sentence is very domineering? I think it's very hooligan. It's the prelude to taking advantage of others. Xiao Bei, why did you run over?" Wang Wan said to Zhang Xiaobao, and hugged Xiao Bei, who ran over. Xiao Bei looked at Simo Domo He and said to his sister, "It's all Xiao Yuan's fault. It would have been better to compete with Su Yilong in poetry, but he had to suppress her. He also had to choose the theme of homesickness, which made me homesick. Then I thought, Ji Xiang Rui and the others can leave, right? They can call for help, right? I remember when I was young, I had such a big pearl and put it in the house. When I go back, should I bring them a bigger pearl? If they really can't find a big pearl, gemstones, and the like will do. Naturally, I have to ask leader Simo Domo He. I won't ask for it for free. We can use our ancestral secret seasonings to exchange. 13 spices. Usually, we can't bear to eat it. For example, when they eat barbecued meat, we can put some. Brother. The latter part of the sentence was directed to Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao nodded solemnly. Yes, the ancestral 13 spices. If they are willing to take out more things to show their sincerity, 18 spices is also fine. It's easy to eat curry. While they were talking, Xiao Yuan and the others had already started to communicate with Simo Domo He. Simo Domo He could speak the Tang language, so there was no problem in communication. I know my brother is the best. Of course, my sister is also good. 18 spices? Why didn't I know? Xiao Bei whispered to his brother and sister. That's because your brother has never used seasonings that are 13 spices, let alone 18 spices. Those are for people who don't know how to cook. Look at the chefs in our restaurant. Which one of them would grind seasonings into powder and add them to their dishes? Also, I asked you to teach Su Jian's grandson something. Look at how you bullied him. Can't you let him have some self-confidence? Wang Wan also said in a low voice. Xiao Bei pouted. It's not that we're bullying him. It's just that he wants to gain confidence in his poetry through Xiao Yuan. If he were to look for me, wouldn't there not be so much trouble? How stupid was he? Using one's own shortcomings to attack the enemy's strengths. So it's not that we bullied him, but that he didn't succeed in bullying little Yuan. Yes. It's all his fault. It's fine. People get used to it after a few more blows. Don't ask Seymour de Moga for anything. He is also a poor man. If you want gems, you can find jadeite in the places we passed by on our way here. Now is a good time. I think we can find jadeite the size of a house. Zhang Xiaobao could imagine how big of a blow Su Yilong had suffered. Not to mention her. Even he and Cuckoo sometimes had to memorize the information for their younger brother, little Yuan. When they needed to use it, they would ask him. 1% of talent was too powerful, and 99% of hard work could not make up for it. Of course, according to another theory, 100% of children had their own talent. It depended on the environment and the guidance of the adults. The simplest example was when a child was born. The right side of the brain was better developed. He used to use chopsticks with his left hand, but he was forced to use chopsticks with his right hand. Every time his left hand touched the chopsticks, he would hit it. After a long time, the child would not only change the hand that held the chopsticks, but it would also form a conditioned reflex to suppress the use of the right side of his brain. Then, the parents would say that their child was stupid. Was there any reason? Xiao Bei did not consider whether Su Yilong's heart was hurt. She was most interested in places with jadeite. She had jadeite jewelry of various colors, mainly red and green. No matter how she looked at it, it was more beautiful than glass. Brother, it's a mine, right? Our precious candy house. It involves too many lives and interests. Behind the beauty of every gem, there is blood. We will occupy the place where jadeite is produced, but we must stay away from our precious candy house. You can give every child a big cake, but it's impossible to make a jade bracelet for every child. The sweetest thing is the honey pastry of our precious candy house. The happiest way to eat it is to taste it with family. This is the true meaning of our precious candy house. It's not that the most beautiful thing is the jade bracelet of our precious candy house. The easiest way to get it is to gamble on raw stones. Our precious candy house has lost its soul at the same time that it has lost its care for its children. We let you participate in the animal husbandry industry because you can get substantial things to help the children from this industry, such as milk and meat. The mining industry can't provide direct help to the children. It's nothing more than making money and then using the money to buy the things the children need. It seems to be the same thing, but it's actually a different concept. As the owner of the candy house, when you see something, the first thing you think of should be what this thing is for the children, not how much this thing can be sold for. Then, you use the money to buy things for the children. After a long time, you will only remember money, but forget the most direct needs of the children. Everything will start to be measured by money, understand? Zhang Xiaobao patiently explained to his sister that it involved the inertia and philosophy of human thinking. Xiao Bei blinked his big eyes and thought for a while. He nodded and said, I understand. It's like when I fell and hurt my arm. The first thing you and big sister thought of when you saw me was, does Xiao Bei hurt? Was the fall serious? Instead of hearing that little Bei fell, you estimated that it would cost 5 strings of cash to treat her. Go, get someone to get 7 strings of cash. A fallen little Bei doesn't just need money. Even if the former doesn't have money, it's still love. Even if the latter has money, it's still indifference. Of course, it's even better if there's money and love. Once we participate in the mining industry, our thoughts will gradually turn to money. Zhang Xiaobao picked up his sister and placed her on his lap. He kissed her hard and said, Mwah, Aya, our little Bei is so smart. It can't be helped. She's always been smart. Who's as stupid as Su Yilong? 10 years. It'll probably take 10 years to catch up to the current little Yuan. If he starts practicing every day from now on and works hard to learn, 5 years might be possible. Little Bei patted her chest and deeply agreed with her brother's words. Wang Wan finally asked about the specific situation. What did little Yuan do? Little Yuan let him know something about Buddhism and something you guys talked about before. That is, seeing a mountain is a mountain, seeing water is water. Seeing a mountain is not a mountain. Seeing water is not water. Seeing a mountain is a mountain. Seeing water is water. According to what you guys said, the last one is to find it 1,000 times in the crowd. It was as if Xiao Bei had won the competition. He was overjoyed and delighted. Little Yuan is already so amazing. Wang Wan was a little surprised. She naturally knew what that was. 3 realms. In literature, very few people could reach the last realm. When you deliberately emphasized in writing, the reader would feel the beauty. When you didn't emphasize, the reader would forget the way you wrote and only remember the plot. Zhang Xiaobao spoke at this time. He's not that amazing. Little Yuan doesn't have enough life experience. He can't understand many things thoroughly just by relying on the knowledge in books. His success this time is because he chose the topic of homesickness. Even children know how to miss. That's why he made Su Yilong suffer a blow. Little Yuan, right? Yes. My little Yuan didn't write about the profundity of history. He simply expressed his longing for his younger brother and sister because he's not stupid. Little Bei understood everything. That was why she said a jingle and a nursery rhyme to cooperate with little Yuan. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan looked at each other and stood up to walk out. Brother, where are you two going? Little Bei looked at Simo Domo when she asked. Didn't they want to discuss something with him? Zhang Xiaobao patted Little Bei's head. You guys talk to him. Your sister and I will take a look at Grandpa Su's grandson. Otherwise, when we go back and talk about it, I'm afraid your grandpa, Su, will fall ill and be hospitalized. Okay, leave this to us. Little Bei agreed and ran to Simo Domo. Zhang Xiaobao just nodded at Simo Domo and then walked out with Wang Wan. Simo Domo, who was sitting there, was angry. He felt that he was left out. He looked at the children in front of him who were talking to him about a deal. He gritted his teeth and decided with a hint of revenge to get some benefits from the children. After that, if Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan didn't agree, he would return the benefits. If the two of them didn't say anything, he would take it that they agreed. Compared to Simo Domo's complicated thoughts, Little Bei and the others were much simpler. They didn't think about who would get how much. They only felt that according to the actual situation of the local poverty, they would use 13 incense to exchange for other people's good things. Moreover, they were experienced and knowledgeable and could easily estimate the approximate value of each item. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, who were outside, didn't know what Simo Domo was thinking. Otherwise, they would have kindly advised him not to play this kind of game with Little Bei and the others. That way, they would definitely be at a disadvantage. Not everyone could take advantage of the little guys. When the two of them found Su Yilong, they saw that Su Yilong was holding a basket that had just been carelessly woven with branches in one hand and a leek scythe in the other. The leek scythe was specially used to cut leeks. It was very easy to use. Once the scythe was cut, a bundle of leeks would fall. Moreover, it wouldn't hurt the roots. As long as you used your strength, it would definitely be a flat cut. The tool itself limited your normal movements, unless you deliberately cut in a crooked direction. When you encountered leeks with rotten roots, you could still dig downwards. With a gentle turn, the rotten roots would be dug out. Su Yilong was digging wild vegetables along the lake. When she encountered those that ate the top part, she would directly cut them. When she encountered those that ate the leaves, she would cut them close to the ground. When she encountered those that ate the roots, she would use the scythe to cut them out. For every wild vegetable, she would carefully shake off the soil, separate them, and carefully arrange them in the basket. What is he doing? Wang Wan looked at Su Yilong and realized that it was different from what she had thought before. She thought that Su Yilong should be sitting by the lake in a daze, listless. Zhang Xiaobao revealed a gratified smile, digging wild vegetables. And then? Wang Wan asked. Then, she would comprehend life and settle down to do the little things around her, instead of looking at the clouds and fantasizing about flying. If Grandpa Su saw this, he would definitely be very happy. Zhang Xiaobao praised. So that's how it is. It seems that he isn't afraid of being shocked at all. He adjusted himself really quickly. Let's dig 2. Boil the wild vegetables in boiling water and dip them in sauce. Wang Wan suggested. Zhang Xiaobao picked the wild vegetables with her. After an hour, Seymour Duomo walked out of the hall, looking very tired. Then there was an obvious, dejected look. Xiao Bei and the others were still happily talking and laughing. It's over. Another person who has been shocked. I don't know if he can recover as quickly as the previous one. Zhang Xiaobao looked up, shook his head, and said to Wang Wan, I guarantee that he took the initiative to scheme against the little guys. Otherwise, it would be impossible. Wang Wan added. Chapter 1342. The sound of Xiao Bei's laughter woke up Su Yilong, who was digging for wild herbs by the lake. He looked up at the 9 happy little guys, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. There was a look of relief on his face. Zhang Xiaobao happened to see Su Yilong's appearance when he raised his head. At this time, Su Yilong was not as high-spirited as before when he was following the team. He looked very easygoing and natural. Zhang Xiaobao knew that this was a sublimation of thinking. When Su Yilong returned, he would be much higher than the others of his generation. In that case, he would have an explanation to old man Su Jian. At the same time, the Tang Empire would have one more useful talent, or a good official. Although the children nowadays were educated, and the requirements for students during the imperial examination were getting higher and higher, which seemed very fair in fact, it could not offset the advantages of the official family. This was inevitable. The same situation existed in any country and era with a system. Whether it was China, the United States, Japan, or Russia, one's family background had always played a very important role. Since he could not stop it, it was better to find a way to improve the personal quality of the official's children. If using a knife to cut off the water did not work, then adding fuel to the fire. Use the system to limit some of the power, and use the humanities to influence some of the officials. Even if there were still various kinds of corruption in the end, the number would naturally decrease. Try to improve the ability of the officials as much as possible, and at the same time ensure the relative income of the officials. Their salary must be in the upper class of society, and their welfare must be higher than ordinary people. Otherwise, they would be in a strong temptation. Ilong, how many wild vegetables have you dug? Zhang Xiaobao, who was in a good mood, waved to Su Ilong and shouted. Su Ilong slowly stood up, carrying a basket in one hand and a leek scythe in the other, and walked over. After a few steps, she tilted the basket so that Zhang Xiaobao could see the wild vegetables inside. She said, "Not much, only half a basket. It's enough to boil soup for a few people. It's not enough to cook vegetables." Huh? Why is it different? Xiao Bei jumped twice and came in front of Su Ilong. It looked at her carefully from head to toe, and then looked at the wild vegetables in the basket with a curious look. Xiao Bei felt that the Su Ilong in front of her was like a different person compared to before. Her tone and actions gave her the feeling that she was calm, not deliberate or pretentious. Her gaze was no longer aggressive, but so gentle. "You've changed so quickly. What are you doing? Teach me. You teach me how to change my expression. I'll teach you how to negotiate. I'm very good at negotiating." Xiao Bei nudged Su Ilong and said, "I want to thank you all. Actually, I'm still me. It's just that I'm a little different after meeting you all. As for your skills, I must learn them. Even if I have to cook for you all every day, I must learn all of your skills. Otherwise, wouldn't I have come all this way for nothing?" Su Ilong lifted the basket in her hand and said to Xiao Bei, meaning that she was going to cook today. Xiao Bei took a step back and waved his hand. "No, let's learn from each other. As for cooking, please spare us. You're a good person. You can't torture us like this. But we have a seasoning called 13 spices. It's still very good. If you don't believe me, you can ask Chief Simo Domo He." Xiao Bei smiled and looked at Simo Domo He. Simo Domo He's expression was not very good. During the negotiation, just now, he did want to bully the little ones. He wanted to use an ivory bead to exchange for 50 kilograms of salt from Xiao Bei. His idea was very good. It was safer to exchange for the salt in his hands. Although they followed the Tang team and discussed before that there would be salt to eat, if one day they were angry, or if the whole team did not have enough salt, it would inevitably be a burden to the people in his tribe. He had some salt in his hands that could be used at critical moments. If the little ones could exchange for a few more ivory beads, he would have a lot of salt. He could dissolve it in water and drink it to make people feel strong. In the end, it was Xiao Bei and the others who asked what kind of seasonings they needed. He said that if they sold the salt directly, they would not sell it. They had to match it with seasonings. Therefore, the seasonings were expensive. He said that there were 18 kinds of seasonings, matching them with the salt 1 by 1, then 2 by 2, 3 by 3, until there were 18 kinds of seasonings. In the end, there were 153 kinds of seasonings that were matched with the salt alone. Then, adding the 18 kinds of seasonings that were matched with the salt alone, it became 171 kinds of seasonings. Then, he added 3 by 3, 4 by 4, and so on. He was confused, but there were a lot of them. After calculating, it was obvious that it was not possible. Simo Domo, he was not stupid. He did not want to talk about other things, and only wanted to talk about salt. Xiao Bei and the rest of the 9 could not directly sell the salt. Although there was a lot of salt in the Tang, it was only useful if they carried it with them. Otherwise, if they did not eat salt, they would fall sick. They saw this point and used salt as the main condition to talk about other seasonings. This was because there were many seasonings in the area. Other than chili, many of the other seasonings grew well. Xiao Bei and the rest were puzzled. Why were there so many seasonings in the area? They did not know that if there were not so many varieties, their brothers and sisters could not eat curry every day in India. Even if they were imported, they had to take the climate into consideration. Therefore it was said that the area itself was produced. Xiao Bei and the rest took out a few pieces of deer jerky for Simo Domo he to taste. Deer jerky was made with a few kinds of seasonings. They could not carry any seasonings with them. The smell was too bad. After Simo Domo he ate it, he felt that it was indeed not bad. When he heard Xiao Bei and the rest say that it would taste better with more seasonings, he could not help but be tempted. Xiao Bei and the rest struck while the iron was hot. They said that they could provide an unlimited amount of seasonings to Simo Domo, he, and his people. As long as they could eat it, they would provide all they had, including salt. The prerequisite was that Simo Domo, he also had to give all he had. Simo Domo, he was happy, and said, "You can give me as much as I want." Xiao Bei said, "No, I want as much as you can eat. If you eat 1 jin of salt per person a day, I will give you 1 jin per person. If you can eat 2 jin, I will give you 2 jin." They went back and forth on this topic. Simo Domo, he was very tired. They had 9 people, but he was only 1. After an hour, he agreed. When he agreed, he was in a good mood. He felt that he could hunt for ivory in the future, but he could not find seasonings and salt. Just as they were about to leave, Xiao Bei told him that there were seasonings in the area. If they wanted them, they had to send people to pick them. Then, there would be people in the group who would specially make them. They could eat as much as they wanted, but the prerequisite was that they had to pick them. If they did not pick them, it was fine. Their own group would pick them and provide seasonings. However, their own group would pick them, and the usual hunting of wild animals would be left to their tribesmen. Simo Domo, he became depressed when he knew that there were seasonings in the area, and that his own people had to work for them. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan saw his tired and depressed appearance. The 9 of them were, of course, happy because they still had a backup plan. They did not usually eat 13 spice, but it did not mean that 13 spice was worthless. There were many Tang people who did not eat much of it. If they continued to move forward and entered the territory of the man-eaters, they could still sell it to them. Besides 13 spice or 18 spice, other than the influence of the season, there was also the secret recipe for processing. It was not that you would get 13 spice if you collected 13 kinds of plants. If the combination was not good, people would fall sick. There were things that were sun-dried and shade-dried, and special ones needed to be smoked. This was not told to Simo Domo he, and it was not in the agreement. When the time came, they would collect the plants that were in the current season and process 10 portions. They would just give them 1 portion and say that the processing process failed. Simo Domo he did not know, or else he would fall to the ground again. Nitroglycerin would not be able to save him. When he heard Xiao Bei's words, Simo Domo he smiled at Su Yilong, but it was a forced smile. Su Yilong didn't even need to ask to know what was going on. She had heard too many legends about Xiao Bei and the others when they were negotiating with others. She knew even more about 13 spice. Although it wasn't very cheap, it wasn't so expensive that it was unbearable. Even if an ordinary family did not eat it, they could buy a bag for 12 copper coins and leave it at home. When guests came, they could cook it to enhance the taste. Just like tea leaves, that bag was enough to last them for half a month. Those who were slightly better off could eat it casually. Its biggest use was to cook meat. No matter how bad your cooking skills were, you could cook a chicken or some pork, put water in the pot, and add 13 spice. The taste would be good. Salt had to be added last. This was the current rule. If you added salt in advance, you would find that the same level of saltiness would require more salt. Unless it was specially made to make braised food, the salt had to be added first, and then it had to be soaked for a long time. At this time, Su Yilong was thinking about how Xiao Bei bullied Simo Domo, he, with the 13 spice. Simo Domo, his condition, was obviously not right. He had just fallen ill, and it was not easy. However, after seeing Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, Seymour Duomo, who was in a bad mood, suddenly revealed a peaceful smile. He instantly understood that what was his might not necessarily be his. Since he was going with the Tang people, he still had many good things in his hands. What would happen? Why not take this opportunity to exchange with the 9 children? He thought that Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan would be happy to see that their younger siblings had more good things. You also know how to change your face. Xiao Bei was about to show off his achievements when he suddenly realized that Simo Domo's expression had also changed. He could not help but feel puzzled. Zhang Xiaobao smiled and said to Xiao Bei, "They did not change their faces, but their hearts. People know how to give and take, so they are open-minded. Pack up, and we will leave in 2 days." Oh, Xiao Bei agreed, but he still did not understand what was going on. He realized that he could not figure it out at the moment, so he stopped thinking about it. He snatched the basket from Su Yilong's hand, grabbed one end, and passed the other end to Xiao Yuan. The two of them carried the basket and skipped towards the campsite. "Do you still need me to do anything?" Simo Domo, he asked Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. "Don't bring too many things, especially wooden tools that you don't usually use. Throw away what you need. When everyone is here, gather those who are sick together," Zhang Xiaobao said to Simo Domo. Simo Domo he hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "I know, kill those who are sick." "What did you say?" Zhang Xiaobao asked in surprise. Chapter 1343. Zhang Xiaobao was shocked, and his gaze towards Simo Domoka was no longer friendly. Simo Domoka didn't know what was going on and was still explaining. "I said that I am willing to listen to your orders and kill the sick people. Don't say you'll listen to my orders. I'm not that heartless. If you were my enemy, I'd just be happy if you all died. But now, you're my people and not my slaves," Zhang Xiaobao said firmly to Simo Domoka as he stared at him. Simo Domoka was stunned. Then why do you want me to gather the sick people? To treat them. Most of the people here are still young. They died because of illness or other problems. So those who are alive now don't have any serious illnesses. We have a medical team that can give you simple treatment. Not only the sick, but also your people. You all have to cut their hair and take a hot bath. I have medicine specially used for bathing. After that, change into new clothes. If you don't have new clothes, find a cloth to cover yourself." Zhang Xiaobao once again felt the cruelty of the slave system. This kind of disregard for life was even more thorough than his and Cuckoo's. He and Cuckoo had killed people, and he had used all kinds of methods to destroy the enemy. But that didn't mean that he didn't know how to respect life. He also felt uncomfortable when he killed people. He only did it for the benefit of the Tang Empire. There was no right or wrong. He had never said that he would torture people after they surrendered. Even if it was mining, he would give them enough food. He used the captives' physical strength, not their lives. The work they were doing was indeed dangerous, but that kind of danger was probabilistic. It was dangerous for anyone to do it, not just because of the captives. But the rulers of the slave system didn't treat slaves as people at all. They killed them so easily that it was no different from killing a chicken. It was no different from using boiling oil to feed a live donkey meat. Wang Wan also frowned. She had never thought that her hands were clean. If a soldier didn't have blood on his hands, what kind of soldier was he? He had also massacred a Tubo village before, killing both the old and the young. However, that was against outsiders. Now, Seymour Duomo understood the meaning of a massacre within the village. No wonder Duo didn't want to go back to the tribe. No wonder the local tribesmen didn't have such a strong sense of resistance. It wasn't that they didn't understand unity, but that their leaders abandoned them too easily. If they didn't have religious beliefs, they would have been finished long ago. Did you hear that? We're not asking you to kill him. We're treating him. Wang Wan looked at Simo Domo with a cold gaze. Seymour Duomo couldn't help but shudder. After he reacted, he nodded repeatedly. Yes, I know. You are the one who treated them. Let me say this first, I have nothing to exchange for this. This help when you do things. Our medical services are free. We don't expect you to give us anything. You arrange it. Zhang Xiaobao continued. Then, he didn't want to look at Seymour Duomo anymore. He pulled Wang Wan and left. Seymour Duomo stood where he was and watched the two people leave, as well as the guards hiding in the dark one after another. He sighed and muttered, "If I had known that you weren't going to kill, I wouldn't have said kill. Anyway, the old and weak will die slowly. I'll see if you can save them when we're on our way. You don't understand the cruelty here." Seymour Duomo felt that he was right. In fact, he also wanted to kill a lot of burdens. He felt that it was useless to keep those people alive. In the past, he always sent the old, powerless, and sick people outside so that they could contribute to him at the last moment of their lives. With a sneer, Seymour Duomo touched the small bottle that contained the medicine to treat him and walked unhurriedly to his palace. A race that doesn't know how to love cannot survive. They will eventually be ruled or controlled by others. I guess he's still thinking that we don't understand the situation here. There are many weak and old people in a team, and they think that our kindness is a joke. But he definitely doesn't think that without this kindness, we wouldn't have the status we have in Tang today. Should we give up on the old and weak? If we lost a battle and were running away, maybe we would choose to give up. But we definitely can't be so calm. I believe that every night I will be awakened by nightmares. I saw Seymour Duomo's hesitation. At that moment, I didn't know whether he didn't want to kill, or whether he was considering who to kill, and whether he wanted to use this opportunity to get rid of the disobedient. Therefore, only a ruler who recognizes his own power and responsibility is qualified to survive in this world. Otherwise, when the people know that there is another ruler who cares for their people, they will inevitably rebel. At the same time, the foundation of the country will be shaken. You will find that even if you don't give him advanced weapons, many people in the country will die from violence. There will be more violent deaths than when you give him advanced weapons, but know how to care for the people or fear the people. Zhang Xiaobao was provoked by Seymour Duomo. When he spoke, he was thinking about how to find a chance to kill Seymour Duomo. This kind of person can't be left alive. If he wanted to achieve a certain political goal, he could send Seymour Duomo to do things that would harm others. When he reached the point of infuriation, he would appear and kill Seymour Duomo. He believed that he would gain the favor of those who were bullied by him. But obviously, he couldn't do that. If he did that, his heart would be dirty. Sending someone to do it and using the lives of the people who did it to achieve his goal was worse than doing it himself. "You mean to give everyone in Tang a gun?" Wang Wan turned and asked. "Why not? Do you think that you have to use a gun to kill people? As long as the laws against the people at the grassroots level are fair, even if they have the means to kill people who make them angry, they won't use it. It's people who kill, not guns. If possible, not only will I give the people of Tang guns, but I will also tell them that if an official bullies you and you don't have the chance to send a telegram and your life is threatened, then you should shoot. Shoot at that official, and shoot at the person who threatens your life." Zhang Xiaobao made a shooting action as he spoke, and there was a cold smile on his face. "If we do as you say, Tang will be in chaos." "Well, at least that's what the corrupt officials of Tang will think. You don't need to say it, I'll say it for you." Wang Wan smacked Zhang Xiaobao's hand that was about to raise the gun and said, she actually understood that when people said that more people died from gunfire in other countries, it was actually a one-sided view. Countries without guns had more people dying from knives and bricks. When everyone had a gun, they naturally knew how to respect life. When everyone had their own car, they naturally wouldn't think that pedestrians had to let them go first. Respect came from the same social status. Social status depended on hard work and effort. Whether hard work and effort produced results, or rather, the probability of producing theoretical results, depended on the policies of the ruling class of the society. That's why we have to cherish this era. We have to maintain the development of economy and technology, strengthen traditional morals, strengthen the law, and create a stable social environment. Even the rulers have to act in the interests of the majority when they do things. Zhang Xiaobao concluded. Wang Wan smiled. Does that mean that Li Longji has no choice but to compromise? Li Longji is actually quite cute. Zhang Xiaobao also smiled. How is he cute? What are you looking at? As Wang Wan spoke, she saw Zhang Xiaobao looking around, so she followed suit. I'm looking to see if there are any spies. We have people in the palace providing information. Don't you think he's cute? He has no choice. Can't he just get rid of us? He's not stupid. He still wants to be the emperor. He's probably thinking of us right now and wants us to go back quickly so that he can travel. This means that his power is restricted. Even if he can tolerate the turmoil in the country, he can't tolerate the powerful weapons of an unknown country that can attack from thousands of miles away. When it reaches this level, he'll probably have other thoughts. Then he has to wait. Wait. Aren't we all waiting? Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan chatted all the way back to the camp, and they happened to see the little ones busying themselves there. There was a large basin filled with a lot of yellow-black scrambled eggs. On the other side was a chopping board. Xiao Bei and the others took the small root vegetables out of the water and handed them to Su Yilong. Su Yilong held the knife in one hand and the small root vegetables in the other, working hard to cut them. Be careful, don't cut your hand. Our knife is very fast. You cut it one by one. Don't think that you're as agile as the logistics master in the team. When you find that you feel uncomfortable cutting the vegetables, you have to stop and adjust. Don't think that there's only a little left and cut through it. Understand? Xiao Bei held a few washed small roots in his hand and nervously watched Su Yilong cut there. His mouth didn't stop talking. Su Yilong was sweating profusely, looking at the muscles on his arms that were exposed when he rolled up his sleeves. She knew how nervous he was. But he still insisted, cutting while replying to Xiao Bei. I know, I've written it all down. You guys know more. I'm far worse than Xiao Chang and Xiao Gang. Then you still want to cut, let them do it. Xiao Bei glanced at Xiao Chang and Xiao Gang who were kneading the dough, and said to Su Yilong, how can I let you do dangerous things? Otherwise, when Xiao Bao and Cuckoo see it, I don't dare to imagine the consequences. If the knife is not sharpened so fast, will it? It will cut off your hand. A blunt knife hurts people. Xiao Bei and the others usually use very fast knives. Not to mention cutting hair. As long as your hand touches it, it will definitely be cut. Zhang Xiaobao's voice came. Brother, sister, you're back. We were cutting the stuffing. We wanted to cut it, but we found that if we cut it, all the vegetables will fly away. So we had to cut it. Why, brother? Xiao Bei grabbed the small root vegetables and ran in front of Zhang Xiaobao. As he spoke, he put the small root vegetables in front of Zhang Xiaobao's mouth and let him eat. Zhang Xiaobao dodged back. Who put the garlic together with the small root vegetables? The color and size are different. Let's take a good look. Oh, I know the garlic, but there are only a few. It's not good to eat raw, as it's too spicy. This thing is useless. Brother, why do you think it flew away when you cut it? Xiao Bei retracted his hand and looked. That's right, the garlic is there, purple skin. This is physics knowledge. If you want something to fly out when it's under force, you have to control the transmission of force and the physical characteristics of a current object. On the other hand, if you don't let something fly, you also have to control it. The easier it is to cut something, the harder it is to fly, so you have to fix it when processing metal parts. Then, there are two ways to cut vegetables. One is to do it like me. As Zhang Xiaobao spoke, he stepped forward and picked up the other kitchen knife beside him. He took the mixture of root and garlic from Xiao Bei's hands and placed it on the chopping board. The knife rose and fell, and after a few swings, the mixture was cut into small pieces. Then, he continued to cut it into smaller pieces. This is the familiarity of the tool and the thing being cut. It also requires strong control. Practice makes perfect. It's very simple, but you need to persevere. Wow, brother is so awesome. Xiao Bei clapped his hands and shouted. Su Yilong stopped and listened carefully. She knew how Xiao Bao's cooking skills were, but she had only eaten before. She had never seen Xiao Bao cook. Today, it was an eye-opener. Why couldn't it fly? The knife was obviously not used for cutting. Zhang Xiaobao continued, there's another way. It's much simpler. Bring all the vegetables you've washed over. The few little guys brought the things up and piled them together. Zhang Xiaobao gathered them again and then began to cut with a knife. As he cut, he said, "This method is to use other things to block the vegetables that are about to fly out. Stack the vegetables together and the knife cuts in the middle. In fact, they will fly, but they will be blocked. The premise is that the chopping board must be fixed firmly. Otherwise, with the force of the chopping board, the vibration produced will still shake the things away. Observe more in your daily life. You'll find that the thickness of the chopping board used to cut vegetables doesn't matter. But the chopping board used to cut vegetables must be thick wood, and it must be one piece, not a few pieces of bamboo stuck together. But we can't put metal plates, springs, and shock absorbers on the chopping board. That will reduce the kinetic energy of the falling knife. We need a tool table that can mitigate the force and hold it in. Only then can we use it to cut. This is actually the simplest physics analysis and application. When cutting vegetables, there is also a need to guide the flow. Similarly, when cooking, heating is inseparable from physics. We also have to pay attention to the chemical reaction. When different ingredients are put together, poisonous substances will be produced. This is called the mutual promotion and restraint of ingredients. The purpose of learning knowledge is to apply it. You have to do more often when you have nothing to do. Do it purposefully. This will not only promote your hands-on ability, but also deepen your grasp and understanding of knowledge. After Zhang Xiaobao finished speaking, the vegetables on the chopping board were also chopped. A few pieces flew, but most of them were not a problem. This was within the normal range. The vegetables that were chopped by the special grade chef would also fly. If he didn't want them to fly, he would cut them. Of course, there were also experts who would cut things flying when cutting vegetables. We have to think more about how to play in the future. Xiao Bei understood and said happily. Su Yilong's face was full of gratitude. She knew that Xiao Bao said this for her to hear. She usually had access to a lot of books, but she just read them. She never thought that physics and chemistry could be used in cooking. Chapter 1344. The 9 little guys were not willing to think about things that were too deep. They would only think about it when they needed it, and they were not worried about not being able to figure it out. They had brothers and sisters to back them up, and they had very powerful brothers and sisters. Therefore, what they were thinking about now was how to wrap the small root cabbage in a box and fry it in a pan. Today they planned to cook a meal by themselves, including the cat ear soup that went with the small root cabbage box. But there was no fresh cucumber pickles. If the team came to travel, fresh cucumbers would not be a problem. Someone would specially carry soil and grow cucumbers on it. But now it was a war. Who dared to waste manpower and material resources like that? If there was a spare place, it would be better to fill it with salt or bullets. The 9 people who made the box for the first time were very nervous. Su Yilong also did not cook. He could not cut the vegetables well. What else could they expect him to do? As the main force of the box, Su Yilong was very excited. He felt that the action of making pancakes could be regarded as a kind of art. But only those who made pancakes every day understood that it was actually a kind of life. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan no longer went in to rest. Instead, they took out folding stools and sat down, watching their younger siblings and Su Yilong cook. The two looked at each other and remembered the first time they made wontons for their family. The same passion, the same excitement, and the different craftsmanship. Even if the little guys put their heart into the box they made was also strange. They could not even squeeze the edges of the box. Only the clumsiness can be seen in the simplicity. Great skills appear clumsy. Zhang Xiaobao did not care. There were only 3 consequences if the box was not wrapped well. First, the stuffing was leaked. Second, the stuffing was not cooked in the thick part. And third, the thin part was scratched. This was not a big problem. If the stuffing was leaked, it could also be fried and eaten. If it was not cooked, it was not a big problem. In the stuffing of wild bird eggs and small root cabbage, the bird eggs had to be fried first. The small root cabbage could be eaten raw or cooked. As for the scratched part, it could be eaten as a strange rice crust. As long as the little ones put their heart into it, no matter what they made, the adults would feel that it was delicious. Even the delicacies made by the top-class chefs were not as delicious as the noodles made by the children. This was the consensus of the adults in the world. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan didn't care and just waited to eat. The little ones also didn't think about the food they made. They maintained absolute confidence that the food they made would definitely be good. Only Su Yilong, who was slightly older, was afraid. She was worried that Xiao Bao and Cuckoo would not like the food she made. From time to time, he would look at the pot, then at Xiao Bei and the others who were wrapping the boxes. He looked at the stuffing in the basin and suddenly had an idea. He suggested, "Can we add some meat inside?" Xiao Bei was tasting the newly mixed stuffing to see how it was salty. When she heard Su Yilong's movement, she raised her head to look at him and said helplessly, "Brother Yilong, cooking is the same as composing poems. It doesn't matter how much flavor you add. It depends on whether you can express a flavor. Just like the chive stuffing, if you want to add meat, you can. It's very simple. No matter what kind of meat you add, it's not a problem. It doesn't matter if it's nutritious mutton, warm chicken, or cold crab meat. It can all be mixed in." "But," I said, "but understand?" Xiao Bei was like an adult. It was very difficult for her to make food, but she ate a lot. When she reached a certain level, when she was used to the wind and waves, the trickling stream was the pursuit. Su Yilong knew what chives were. She didn't like to eat them, usually. Every time she ate them, she would have a stomachache. It was only when she ate at Zhang Xiaobao and Wang restaurant that she was fine. He also didn't know what was going on. Seeing that Xiao Bei said that she could put everything, he asked, "Isn't it good to put venison?" "Okay, but we want to eat the pure taste of the root vegetables. The monarch, the minister, and the assistant minister are the rules. Whether it's used in medicine, calligraphy, or food now, who is the monarch and who is the minister? When you put venison, I only want to eat venison. Moreover, eating venison and root vegetables together is too nutritious. Then why did you put wild bird eggs?" Su Yilong asked as if he was asking for advice. In terms of enjoyment, he was very clear that he was not the opponent of the little guys. Although they suffered a lot, that was because they were willing to. However, if they didn't suffer, when it came to enjoyment, he was far behind them. Xiao Bei spat out the stuffing in her mouth and reached for the salt. When she touched the box of salt, she paused. She bit her lower lip, looked up at the sky, rolled her eyes, and retracted her hand. "You can't put any more salt. If there's less salt, you can eat it with other seasonings. If there's too much salt, you can't reduce it. It's not like you're making takeout." "Then what did you say? Bird eggs?" "It's fresh." Brother and sister said that the simpler the organization structure, the fresher the taste. If you want to put things, you can put river prawns. It has to be big. Only meat, no shell. Sea prawns can't. Sea prawns are too fresh and will suppress the taste of the root vegetables. We want to eat the root vegetables. Then why not put river prawns? Su Yilong felt that there was a lot of knowledge in eating, so he became more and more curious. Because no one catches and peels prawns. If you want to eat something with 3 fresh stuffing, the egg has to be cooked, but the prawns have to be raw. If you boil the prawns in water, they become stuffing and then heat them up again. It's easy to cut your hand when you peel the raw prawns. I'd rather not eat it than do it. What if you get injured or infected? Xiao Bei shook her 2 chubby little hands, indicating that she didn't want to be cut. Su Yilong had to admit that she couldn't compare with the little guys in many aspects of life. For a moment, she couldn't help but feel envious. It wasn't that she hadn't experienced life, but that no one had ever told her this in her daily life. It seemed very simple, but there was endless knowledge in it. No wonder His Majesty also put his youngest children beside Xiao Bao and Cuckoo. They were the eldest princess and the first prince. It turned out that their education started from the bits and pieces of life. After an hour, the root vegetable boxes were done. Black, yellow, and gray, they were stacked one by one. They were put on a plate and sent to the dining table in front of Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. There was also a bowl of wild vegetable soup with the smell of oil floating in it. Because the root vegetable boxes were limited in quantity, they were usually only eaten in the inner courtyard for Xiao Bei and the others. The wild vegetable soup was much easier to make. In addition to some chopped green onions, there was water, salt, pepper powder, and some uncooked oil. There were 2 full pots, less than half a basket of vegetables in them. They were distributed to more people to drink. There were a few wild vegetable leaves in each bowl. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan had the most wild vegetables in their bowls. This soup was simple to make, but it was very good for people's health. Regardless of whether the weather was cold or hot, drinking it while eating would replenish water. Furthermore, it was eaten with steamed buns, so there was no need for vegetables. It couldn't be compared to the soup of the rich and powerful. That kind of soup was boiled or boiled. Speaking of the soup with the best taste, the rich and powerful generally couldn't drink it. It wasn't that they didn't have the ingredients, but that they didn't have the skills. Zhang Xiaobao drank a mouthful and looked at Wang Wan. Wang Wan smacked her lips and said, "No wonder people in the South said that Northerners' soup is scrubbed water. If the oil isn't boiled well, it is indeed very similar to scrubbed water. If the Southerners' soup isn't boiled well, it's no different from the Northerners' pig food. Let's not attack each other, okay?" Generally, only people who have never been out or people who went out and suffered losses are willing to attack each other. Whoever attacks shows that they have low self-esteem. The strong are respected wherever they go, so they are friendly to everyone. When I was abroad, I didn't attack the country. I even wanted to come back, but I knew that as long as I showed my face, I would definitely be caught. Especially beautiful geniuses, they were very willing to catch me. Zhang Xiaobao looked at the soup bowl in front of him and said to Wang Wan. Wang Wan took a bite of the small vegetable box and swallowed it slowly. She drank 2 mouthfuls of soup and let out a long breath. Now I don't have to worry about the excess food in my stomach. But people who have gastric problems definitely can't eat this kind of box. Eat, don't complain. It's my mission to catch you. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the beauty. Xiao Bei, come, let me tell you, next time when you make this kind of soup, remember to sprinkle the chopped green onions into the oil first. If the chopped green onions don't turn black, it means that the oil temperature is not enough. Don't add water immediately. Zhang Xiaobao said to Wang Wan. Seeing that Wang Wan's eyes began to change, he hurriedly called his sister. Xiao Bei also knew that the taste was not good, but this was made by them. She had to drink and eat. She picked up a black box on both sides and put it on her brother's plate. She said, "I haven't made it before, so I'm not familiar with it. Next time I won't. If it's not good, don't drink it." Zhang Xiaobao was speechless. You think it's only the soup that's not good? Then why did you pick up a black box for me? But he said, "How is it not good? It's just that it hasn't reached the highest level. If the soup is given to the people of Duo tribe to drink, they'll be happy to death. It's good enough that there's salt." I think so too. Xiao Bei was very considerate, but she still looked at the soup and frowned. She asked, "Brother, is there a way to not have the smell of raw oil no matter when you add water?" "There is." Zhang Xiaobao patted Xiao Bei's head. "It's fine as long as the oil is cooked before. Didn't you notice that there are many oil jars in our kitchen? It's that simple. Then what should we do now that the soup already has the smell of raw oil?" Xiao Bei felt that her first time cooking was a failure. "Do you still have chopped green onions?" "Yes, there are wild onions in the mountains, a lot of them. You just need to chop the chopped green onions and sprinkle them directly on top of the soup." Zhang Xiaobao gave a remedy in a situation where there was no other way. Xiao Bei was happy. Sure enough, her brother was the best. She threw down the chopsticks in her hand and ran to find Xiao Yuan and the others to make arrangements. Zhang Xiaobao smiled and said to Wang Wan, "Eat, beauty. Actually, this soup and box are not bad." The title of beauty was effective. Wang Wan did not mention what had just happened. She gently drank the soup, and it seemed that it was really delicious. Then she said, "Compared to the people in the refugee area, the food in front of us is a delicacy. Yes, the damage caused by natural disasters is great, but there are also many man-made refugee areas. I wonder how many refugees will appear in Duo tribe this time. Zhang Xiaobao also carefully chewed the black box that Xiao Bei had given them. It depends on the situation at sea. Wang Wan turned her head and looked to the west. Chapter 1345. Wind direction, southwest. Wind speed, 5. The situation under the water is unknown. It is not easy for large ships to approach the shore. Send small ships into the water. Pay attention to the tail waves. On the ship closest to the shore, someone on the lookout tower sent out a signal with a sailfish. In the fleet of large ships, there were immediately 100 smaller ships. 2 small ships, each 4.5 meters long and 2 meters wide, came down from each ship. Each small ship could seat 8 people. They rowed toward the shore, and there were also things covered with canvas on the ships. About 200 li away from the 1,000 ships, there were 9,000 ships anchored there, including 2,000 gunboats. These were all the naval forces the Tang Empire could muster. Over the years, they had built 3,000 gunboats. 200 were left in the country, and 500 were used to patrol the seas. Wherever there were Tang merchant ships, there would be Tang gunboats. The rest were all sent here. In the future, they would not build the same type of gunboats. New gunboats were rarely built. Usually they would build 2 or 3 and send them to the seas, lakes, Yellow River, and Yangtze River for training and to learn the techniques. If there was a need, the large shipyards would start construction at the same time. The other ships anchored on the sea were transport ships and supply ships. There were 200,000 soldiers on the shore this time. For a long time, they would not be able to get supplies from a country. They also needed to carry livestock for transportation. 10,000 ships sounded like a number, but when looking at it, one would never compare this number with the situation on the sea. There were already merchant ships coming back from farther away. When they saw the ships on the sea, the people on the ships ran up and shouted, "Boss, boss, quick, come out and look at the ships." A merchant ship called Longing Tang was returning to the Tang Empire along the shore. The lookout on the mast saw the scene in front of him through a telescope and shouted at the top of his lungs. As he shouted, he climbed down from the mast. "What are you shouting for? Little Dong, when can you be more steady? Ever since we left the Tang Empire, I haven't seen you rest. You shout when you see fish, you shout when you see seabirds. Look the ship, we are already on the ship. It's not like we haven't seen ships before. Is this a merchant ship or a guard ship of the Tang Empire?" On the deck, in a small wooden hut, a person was rolling noodles. Next to him was a wooden shelf. On the paper, there were 3 very small children. From their clothes, it could be seen that they were 2 boys and 1 girl. When he heard the lookout shout, he quickly added some cold water into the pot and shouted back. The man he called Xiao Dong had already slipped down from the mast very deftly and stood in the doorway. He sniffed and said, "Boss, I mean Captain. You made noodles for me again. There are boats, many boats. Who made it for you?" The noodles I brought from the Tang Empire were not much to eat. I cooked and ate a few mouthfuls, but when I got home, the 3 kids kept pestering me. I couldn't even eat a peaceful meal of noodles. When I came out, they were less than 1 year old. When I went back, they would be 3 years old. That is the time when they are naughty. The captain narrowed his eyes as he looked at the picture on the paper. Suddenly, he glared at Xiao Dong and said, "Xiao Dong, I told you 100 times to hang the binoculars around your neck. You just had to take off the rope. If you really fell into the sea, I won't be your witness when we get back. Let's see how the authorities will deal with you." "Boss, don't worry. You see, I have a rope tied around my waist. I can't wear it around my neck. My neck will be worn out after a long time." "Boss, Captain, I mean ship, if you don't believe me, you can take a look with the binoculars later. It's so scary." Xiao Dong pulled the binoculars. Sure enough, there was a rope tied around his waist. Every big ship had 2 of these things. One was held by the captain, and the other was given to the lookout. When they came out, they would file a record. When they got back, even if it was broken, they would bring the pieces to the state-level authorities for inspection. If they lost it and no one was there to prove it, they would be punished. The captain was not in a hurry. He didn't expect what kind of scene it would be. He only thought that there was a bigger trading fleet that wanted to meet with his small fleet here. After that, they would greet each other and go their separate ways. In that case, he would be able to see it in a while. It was more important to eat the noodles he brought from the Tang Empire first. It took a long time for the noodles to enter the pot, so the time it took to cook them was shorter. After a few minutes, the noodles were ready. After soaking them in cold water for a while, the captain took another can, opened it, and scooped out a few spoonfuls of bean paste. He scooped a few spoonfuls of bean paste into a bowl and ate a mouthful. Delicious. The noodles and bean paste from my hometown are still the best. Why are you looking at me? If you want to eat, you can eat it yourself. Are you waiting for me to serve you? Captain, you are really too noble. Little Dong happily ran over, picked up the noodles, and put in the sauce. He lowered his head and stuffed half of the noodles into the bowl. Then, he raised his head and rubbed his mouth in satisfaction. Captain, I just remembered. A month ago, Little Bean was sick and wanted to eat noodles. You took out a can of bean paste and said that it was the last one. Today, could it be? I'm dreaming? Yes, now that you have woken up from your dream, go up and take a look. Are you still full? I only made this much. That bean paste, aren't you afraid of being salty? When the captain was speaking, Xiao Dong picked up 2 more chopsticks of noodles and put the bean paste on the noodles. I have woken up from my dream. Boss, I'm going up now. You eat slowly. I will continue to feel the power of the Tang fleet. After finishing 2 bowls of noodles, Xiao Dong gulped down a mouthful of water. He wiped his mouth and ran out, leaving only one sentence. You're lying to me. I won't even look at it. I'll eat noodles. Son, daughter, wait for me to go back. I'll make noodles for you every day. The goods on the 5 ships are all yours. These are goods from Africa that Xiaobao and Cuckoo mentioned. They're very valuable. The captain continued to slurp his noodles unhurriedly, muttering as he looked at the 3 children drawn on the paper. By the time he was full, a quarter of an hour had passed. He let out a satisfied burp and looked at the noodles that hadn't been cooked yet. He gently placed the can of bean paste on the table and wondered who would be lucky enough to run over first. That way, they would be able to cook the noodles themselves. The captain rubbed his stomach and took the binoculars. He strolled outside and continued to look at the sea and blue sky. He thought of Xiao Dong's words and looked ahead with the binoculars. Ah, so many ships. Damn, this is the Tang fleet. Our Tang has so many ships? Reflected in the captain's eyes were ships after ships with dragon flags fluttering in the wind. Everywhere he looked, there were only ships. There was no end in sight. At the end of the sea and the sky, he could vaguely see the silhouettes of ships. The captain was dumbfounded. He swallowed hard and murmured, "What's going on? Am I dreaming? No, absolutely not. Why would the great Tang's fleet come here? Who is going to be unlucky? So beautiful, so mighty. Come out for this captain. Look at the fleet. It is the Tang fleet." After muttering to himself, the captain began to shout to the cabin below the deck. His hands holding the binoculars turned white, and his body trembled uncontrollably. He was too excited. In the past, he could only see a few gunships and supply ships of the Tang fleet. It was rare to see dozens of ships at the dock at the same time. Today, he was truly satisfied. His great Tang had so many warships. When gathered together, they could blot out the sky. This was the Tang fleet, the strength to protect the Tang people. The captain pursed his lips, puffed out his chest, and let the sea breeze blow. He had the urge to cry. The ship in front of him could no longer be called a ship. It was like a mountain range, continuous and unending. What could be prouder than this? More footsteps came from the deck. Hearing the captain's shout, the sailors thought that something had happened and ran out. However, they didn't find any danger. When they looked forward, they were all stunned. Even without binoculars, they could see the ships in front of them. It was just that they couldn't see the flags on them. They could see the hull of the closest ship, the sails and masts further away, and the ships further away were little dots or black lines. Big Uncle, where did these ships come from? There are so many of them that it's frightening, a sailor said to the captain with wide eyes. Huh, where did they come from? Under the heavens. Where you think there are so many ships? Only my great Tang. I can see clearly. Gunships, those are gunships, and more gunships. So many gunships? Who are Cuckoo and Xiao Bao going to deal with? The captain could now see the configuration of the ships clearly. The gunships were clearly different from the ones the captain had seen. Although he couldn't see the cannons, he could see the wooden planks covering the muzzles. Those familiar with the Great Tang's gunships knew that once the wooden planks were removed, the cannons would be exposed. The other ships didn't have string cannons, but they had a gun at the bow and no gun at the stern. This meant that the warships had no intention of firing while escaping. This was a sign of absolute confidence. His nephew rolled his eyes and reminded, Big Uncle, in front of us is the strait of many cannibals. Xiao Bao and Cuckoo are fighting many cannibals. When we came out, it was only a small skirmish. I didn't expect that by the time we came back, they were already fighting. This definitely isn't a small battle. I know. Why would they need so many ships in a small battle? But there are too many gunships. Do the cannibals have enough ships to fight? The captain thought hard and then suddenly understood. I understand. Xiao Bao and Cuckoo aren't sending people to attack the ships. They are transporting soldiers. If the gunships can attack the ships, they can also attack the shore. The cannibals are finished. How? The captain's nephew couldn't understand. If they sent soldiers, they would still have to fight. They were deep in the shore, and the gunships couldn't go up. The captain's nephew didn't think too much about it. Instead, he admired the approaching fleet and sighed. It's so beautiful. I've always heard people say that Cuckoo's gunships broke through the waves and formed a majestic formation. I couldn't imagine what it was like. Now I know. If I were the enemy, I would just surrender. There's no way to fight this battle. In front of us, there's nothing but ships. When we cut through the fleet later, it will be even more shocking. I've seen hundreds of fishing boats moving together, and I think it's spectacular. How many ships does the Great Tang fleet have? It's invincible. Hearing his words, the other crew members on the deck felt the same. The closer they got, the more they felt the oppression of the motherland's invincible fleet. They belonged to the Great Tang. Usually, they didn't need to send many. 1 or 2 gunships and 3 to 5 supply ships were enough to protect the safety of the people outside. When there was a real problem, the Great Tang would gather so many ships and form a boundless fleet. With the protection of the armed forces on the sea, they could go anywhere in the world. Captain, when we go back, if we see ships from other small countries, such as Jinla or Japan, we'll stick to them and see if they dare to provoke us. The invincible fleet of the Great Tang will crush them. A crew member shouted excitedly. You're the one who sticks to them, and you dare to provoke them? Isn't it a provocation? The Great Tang fleet is powerful, but it's not for you to provoke them. Don't you need to spend money? Are you stupid? Or are Xiao Bao and Cuckoo stupid? Or is it the emperor? The captain followed the voice and glared at him. Isn't it said that the Great Tang is willing to do all it can for one person? I'm also a person of the Great Tang, the man retorted. He was immediately met with all sorts of criticism. I say, Chun Clan's second son, I told you not to come. You're such a fool, but you insisted on coming. Next time, no matter what you say, I won't agree to bring you along. Idiot, in the future, I'll call you that. And you dare to say that you'll do all it can? That's only because you're in a special situation, like when you're at war with multiple countries at the same time. It's not because you've been bitten by a fish, an entire Great Tang has to take turns rubbing your face. You're truly lacking compared to your brother and brother. If you run into 2 other ships, the Great Tang has to send you this fleet, and they have to cooperate with you? 1 patrol ship is enough. Chun Erbwa, you're sick. You need to be treated. Old 2, I'm confused. Why do you have to provoke others? If their ships are filled with valuable goods, then after you provoke them, the great Tang's armed ships will go and help you steal the goods. But if their ships are filled with rotten fish and shrimps, then after you provoke them, our great Tang ships will go and help you fight. We won't get any benefits. Isn't that just making trouble for the great Tang army? Brother Chun, you're not young anymore. Shut up. What, Brother Chun? You're my younger brother, so just call me brother. You're also talking about me. Do you want to put righteousness before family? The younger brother reacted and hurriedly defended his older brother. That's right, you're my older brother. You, all of you, stop talking about my older brother. Look at the ships. After having their fill, the crowd stopped mocking the second son of the Chun clan and turned their gazes to the great Tang fleet. Bong, 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 bong. Suddenly, the sound of drums and horns came from the fleet in front of them. All sorts of small flags began to move, and the ships with sails began to lower their sails. Big Uncle, what are they doing? The captain's nephew asked curiously. The captain was also puzzled. As he watched, he suddenly realized that the clouds in the sky were moving faster and faster. Immediately, he shouted to the surrounding crew, "Quick, lower the horizontal sail and raise the jib. A gale is coming from the side. Don't look at the ship, or else it'll be blown away." Only then did the crew react. They hurriedly got into position and began to do their work. Soon, the horizontal sail was lowered and the jib was raised to a separate position. The speed of the ship began to decrease. The people on the observation deck did not continue to stay and slipped out to the deck. After a while, the crowd gathered at the front deck. Only the people controlling the sail and the helm were unable to leave their positions. Normally, when encountering such a situation at sea, one would be very nervous. Each time, they would be worried that something would happen and that they wouldn't be able to return home. However, the people on the ship were very relaxed. In front of them was the fleet of their motherland. If the wind was so strong that it was dangerous, the fleet would definitely send a ship to inform their merchant ships. Since no one had come to inform them, it meant that the wind wasn't out of the control of the fleet. Since this was the case, the 5 ships on their side would enter the fleet in a short while, and the fleet would protect them. The wind began to pick up, and the sails of the 5 merchant ships formed a large angle with the ship. If one only looked at the sails, they would feel like the ship was moving at an angle. As the wind howled and the waves battered the sides of the ship, the people on the ship weren't worried in the slightest. All of them steadied themselves and experienced the feeling of riding the wind and waves. Although the wind was blowing from the side, the ships were actually moving faster. 30 minutes later, the 5 merchant ships finally brushed past the closest Tang warship. The flags on the ships fluttered in the wind. Soldiers wearing different types of Navy uniforms were saluting the merchant ships. Their standard standing posture and neat movements made the people on the merchant ships tear up. They all returned the salutes that were out of shape. As they went deeper and deeper into the fleet, they couldn't see the outside anymore. There were only ships, countless ships, and the orderly salutes of the soldiers on the ships they passed. These orderly movements made the blood of the people on the merchant ships boil. They saw the majestic warships, the resolute soldiers, the rolling dark clouds, and the flapping war banners. For a moment, they felt very reassured. There was nothing in the world that could fight against this army. It was too strong, and the eyes of the soldiers showed no sign of retreat or weakness. Good soldiers, once we return and sell the goods, I will take out 10% of the net profit and send it to the barracks. The soldiers of my great Tang can't be wronged. Our dignity in the outside world depends on them. The captain solemnly said. Chapter 1346. The 5 merchant ships passed through the fleet in a daze. They didn't know how much time had passed, but when they came out, they found that the gale had already passed. The people on the ships were all very excited, occasionally turning their heads to look at the seemingly endless fleet. After looking around for a while, the captain returned to his cabin, picked up a pen, and wrote, "We're still in a land of many cannibals, in that part of the sea. I know that it won't be long before we get home." On the way, I saw patrolling armored ships and merchant ships like mine. Whether it was whales or dolphins, they were all very ordinary on the surface of the sea where the sun constantly rose and set. Even Africa didn't shock me. After all, someone else had been there before me. I knew that the last part of the journey would go very smoothly, that no country would come to make trouble. I have always firmly believed that the great Tang's gunships were the most awe-inspiring. But I must say that the fleet I saw today can no longer be described as awe-inspiring. Without seeing it with one's own eyes, one would never be able to imagine such a scale. This is a sight that should not exist in this world. Warships much larger than merchant ships were anchored on the surface of the sea in rows and groups. When I looked through my binoculars, I couldn't see the end of them. They simply floated there, doing nothing, but my heart was filled with boundless pride. I truly didn't dare to guess what I would do if I were an enemy of the Great Tang. Perhaps surrendering would have been a good idea, but I would have to kneel on the deck before the gunships could open fire. But I wasn't. I kept telling myself that I wasn't an enemy, that I was a citizen of the Great Tang, and I was proud to be a citizen of the Great Tang. Thus, I decided to take out 10% of the profits and use it on the Great Tang's fleet. They were worth it, and I had no regrets. The soldiers of the fleet were in no mood to consider the thoughts of the people on the merchant ships that had just passed by. They simply expressed their welcome. According to Cuckoo's request, whenever a Great Tang army left Great Tang territory and encountered a non-combatant of the Great Tang, they had to give them a salute. It was these people who paid the taxes that supported them. Thus, as soldiers, he naturally needed to provide them with sufficient assistance, since they didn't need him and the others to help them fight for the time being. Showing them some goodwill was also a form of assistance. Cuckoo had said that the salute of a soldier was the most beautiful scene, and it would make the people of the Great Tang feel at ease. Now that they were at ease, all that was left was to continue the assault on the Duo Eater. The Duo Eater would never have imagined that a group of Tang soldiers would appear in such an important place. At the narrowest point of the straits, the people who were beginning to approach the shore were very excited. They had already seen the ships of the man-eaters anchored one by one at the rudimentary docks. Actually, it was not quite correct to call it a dock. It was a pity that in such a good natural deep-water place, those boats were too small. Moreover, they were dragged to the shore, where the water was not deep. There aren't any reefs down there. If I had known, I would have just let the big boats come over. It's really a good natural harbor, but the scenery is a little lacking. I thought that I would be able to see a cluster of buildings and all kinds of tropical plants. A sailor who had just docked his boat looked at the scenery in front of him and felt a little disappointed. He had always imagined that other people's docks would be like Luzhou's. When he entered the dock from the outside, he would see a cluster of buildings and a pleasant greenery. However, this was not the case at all. There were no buildings, only a dozen or so boats stranded on the shore. Then, what entered his eyes were mountains, rocks, and yellow hills. The first impression it gave was that it was a barren place. Moreover, there were no lush forests on the mountains. They were all bare. Only when he looked carefully would he see specks of green grass growing with difficulty and tenacity. Why didn't the Duo Eater build up such an important place? What a pity. Zhang Daqiang, what are you standing there for? Hurry up and move the things ashore. Just as this person was lost in his thoughts, the captain's voice rang in his ears. He was so frightened that he hurriedly jumped off the boat and began to cooperate with the others to move the things on the boat ashore. The first batch of things carried by the small boats were machine guns and ammunition. They thought that they would be blocked by the enemy if they came over, so they were prepared to force their way ashore. In the end, they found that the actual situation was different from what they had expected. There was no Duo Eater at all. What they saw was only desolation. The boats that were dragged to the shore had not been used for a long time. There was a lot of sand in the boats, and the bottom of the boats was a mixture of black and brown sand. It was obvious that the boats had not been maintained for a long time. If they were to go out to sea now, it would be easy for them to leak. They could even break the boats by gently knocking on a rock on the shore. However, the team still had to follow the previous steps. They moved the machine guns ashore, connected the ammunition, and prepared to face any possible dangers. When all the things were moved ashore, 6 of the 8 people on each boat stayed behind while the other 2 rowed back to provide support. As for sending a big boat to approach directly, they still did not dare. Sitting on a small boat and not being able to see the reefs underwater did not mean that it was equally safe to send a big boat over. Zhang Daqiang was one of the people who stayed behind. He was a very good sniper. He had received training in jungle warfare and street warfare. He had also specially gone to Fengzhou, to be precise, the southern bank of the Yellow River in Fengzhou. There was a desert there. It was very big. Zhang Daqiang had never walked from one side to the other, and no one would ask for that. However, he had survived there for 2 days. Yes, 2 days. During those 2 days, he only carried a wet towel wrapped in layers of oil paper and a single-edged serrated knife. Other things he did not carry. The experience of those 2 days was definitely a choice between life and death. Fortunately, there were many eagles circling in the sky. The 2 most beautiful ones were red and white. The red one was called the Red Luan, and the white one was called the Shui Yun. If he felt that he could not stand it anymore, he would wave to the sky. There would be eagles bringing water and other supplies, but at the same time, he would be eliminated. Those who were eliminated would not be able to go ashore and continue to move forward. Zhang Daqiang also participated in other training after that, but it was still in the desert. He only came out after 4 months. Who knew how many layers of skin on his body had fallen off? Damn, it's so hot. Zhang Daqiang and the others left in a small boat. Some people stayed behind to provide cover fire, while he joined one person on each boat. There were a total of 200 people. They were very familiar with each other. They were teammates who had survived together in the desert. Yes, it's hot. A weak voice followed. Zhang Daqiang did not need to look back to know who it was. The person's real name was Tu Dong. He was the 4th child in the family. His nickname was Rabbit. Tu Rabbit. It was very pleasing to the ear. When Zhang Daqiang heard Tu Dong's voice, he didn't feel that Tu Dong was a very weak person. Tu Dong's voice was always so soft, and his expression was always shy. However, this kid was not weak at all. He was the most skilled at catching snakes and skinning them. He was also very bold. No matter what the desert thing was, as long as it was said to be edible, he dared to eat it raw. He ate it more delicious than anyone else. The most important thing was that he was very sensitive to water. He could always find the place with the heaviest water vapor under the sand, and then use simple tools to gather the water. Of course, his marksmanship was not bad. Otherwise, he would not have been arranged to be in the first batch of commandos. Don't talk so much when you're hot. Get ready and start adjusting your state. Today, we must advance 50 miles and clear all obstacles along the way. We must circle the area where the quicksand may appear and clean up all kinds of dangerous insects and animals in the desert. The person who came down from the other boat said to Zhang Daqiang and Tu Dong unhappily. The 2 of them immediately shut their mouths and began to prepare. They put on their gloves, tied up their sleeves, checked if the straps on their boots were done properly, and tied up their pants. They put on their hats, tied up their collars, and covered their face masks and reflective glasses. Every part of their bodies was covered, and not a single trace of their skin was exposed. In addition to the large dual backpacks, the guns in their hands, and the knives at their waists, they felt even hotter. However, none of them changed into trousers and vests. In the past, they did not know, but after participating in the desert training for 4 months, they had a deep understanding. In the desert, one should not think that it was cool to wear less. The temperature of the sand was very high. If one's skin was exposed, it would be cracked by the sun. The most important thing was that the water in the body would be lost very quickly. Now they looked uncomfortable, but they could survive very well and save water at the same time. The pain of those 2 days was still etched in their minds. Even so, Cuckoo and Xiao Bao only passed on the surface. The real survival time was 3 days and 3 nights, 72 hours. The reason why they did not add an extra day was because the rescue team could not keep up. During those 2 days, they could not just hide in one place. They also had to complete the mission. Otherwise, it would be much simpler. They just had to dig a hole in the sand dune facing away from the sun, bury themselves in it, and hold on for a while. Zhang Daqiang, who had a deep impression of this, did not say anything, but he could use sign language. He said to Tudong next to him, "Cuckoo and Xiao Bao are really amazing. When we went for the training 3 years ago, they must have thought of this moment. If we had not experienced it before, we would not have been able to walk too far." Of course, if Cuckoo and Xiao Bao are not amazing, who is? I am now wondering, how do the local polyphagous people survive? Do they also walk on the sand and be fine? Tudong also used sign language to say, although it was not a desert in front of them, there was not much greenery. It was yellow, whether it was the mountains or the ground. Coupled with the salty sea breeze and the big sun in the sky, it was easy to imagine how difficult it was to live here. At this time, the captain made a hand gesture and jogged forward. The others lined up and cooperated with each other to follow. Only the sound of chaotic footsteps echoed in the place where the 200 people were walking. The wind was still blowing, and from time to time, the dust on the ground would rise. The clouds in the sky did not have any intention of stopping. They floated by, but not a single drop of rain fell. Were there only 2 choices in his eyes? Men can do better than women, and women can do better than men, so they have to be on opposite sides. Zhang Xiaobao felt that he should help Duo. So he said, "In fact, she didn't hit me because she didn't want to, not because she couldn't beat me. I think you should contact more people outside, especially to see how good the life of the people outside is. In your situation, I guess you can only get in touch with the 126 people in your tribe. They have nothing to do, so they bully each other. Whoever wins will be powerful. Don't you know that there are many people outside who are more powerful than you? My wife and I don't have the leisure to play at home. There are many things outside that we need to calculate together. There are problems with our own people's lives, and there are problems with the enemy's strategy. I advise you to learn from me and think more about the outside world." Simo Domo also beat women. Duo found a realistic example to prove that he was right. Is he powerful? A small leader in charge of more than 3,000 people is powerful? He also has nothing to do. I never think that a man who beats women has something to do. Zhang Xiaobao was very disdainful of Simo Domo. A tribe of more than 3,000 people was considered a social group? A small place was a small place. Unfortunately, even with the large population in India, not many people took them seriously. The main thing was that their military power was not strong. And the most hateful thing was that other people were thinking of ways to make money when they encountered economic crises, but they actually sold their wives. This kind of behavior was no longer an attack on ethics and morality, but on human nature. Zhang Xiaobao had thought many times that if he had a wife, when he had no money, he would take his wife to the market and sell her. Through all kinds of psychology, he would tell himself that it was right to do so. However, in the end, he failed. He couldn't convince himself at all. If he sold a wife who usually cooked, ate, and suffered with him, how cold-blooded would he be? That was not a commodity, but a period of time and memories that had a close relationship with him. The most infuriating were those women who were sold. They were very honest and accompanied the men to sell themselves. This might be a kind of habit. For a race and country with such a habit, the slightly stronger countries in the world would look down on them, let alone pay attention to them. Wife, speaking of the behavior of selling wives in India, it reminds me of lions. Zhang Xiaobo thought, and suddenly said to Wang Wan, who was beside him. If it were someone else, they would be confused by Zhang Xiaobao's words. The jump was too big. Just now he was talking to Duo, and in the blink of an eye, he mentioned lions. However, Wang Wan could understand. There was no need to deliberately think about it. She could empathize with Zhang Xiaobao's words. She could understand Zhang Xiaobao's psychological activities very well. So she said, "Don't mock the lions." The lions didn't take the initiative to give their wives away. They ran away because they couldn't beat them. Moreover, they have to bear the pain of losing their children. Unless there are other lionesses in the pride who don't have children, the new male lions will kill the cubs. Oh, thank you. Please allow me to apologize to the lions. This reminds me of a documentary film from more than 100 years ago, The Adventures of a Lion King. At that time, there was a little lion. It needed to be killed, but it didn't want to die, so it ran away. The lioness stopped the new male lion and created the conditions for it to run into the swamp. I thought it would die, but it tenaciously survived. A few years later, it became a very powerful male lion and found the former pride again. I admire the person who recorded all of this with influence. What are you two talking about? Duo was confused. We're talking about our own words, Zhang Xiaobao replied with a smile. I don't understand. Duo felt that what he said in Tang was right. Why couldn't he understand? He couldn't figure out what the two were talking about. Zhang Xiaobao still said with a smile, "Can others understand you when you talk to your woman?" Yes, Duo said honestly. You're a failure. Zhang Xiaobao didn't give him any face. I think so too. My woman is not as good as yours, Duo admitted. Wang Wan sneered. It's your man who is not as good as mine. Don't put yourself so high. If Xiaobao had your woman would definitely live better than you. Then I'll give him my woman. Are you tired of living? I'll let Xiao Nen use you for target practice. Do you believe it? What is target practice? Like the deer before put you 200 steps away, you can run, and Xiao Nen will shoot you. Why? Forget it. Your IQ is not good. It's a waste of a bullet to shoot you. Go back to the team. Look at your tribe, it's a mess. You want to compete with my man? You can't even manage a team of more than 100 people. TSK. Wang Wan said to Duo in disdain. She took a step forward and prepared to kick. Duo hurriedly ran away, followed by his cursing voice. Scared me to death. If he pushed the women in his tribe in front of me, won't I starve to death? Zhang Xiaobao pretended to be frightened and sighed. Do you really want to vomit when you see them? Wang Wan asked with a smile. I want to die. Zhang Xiaobao said with certainty. Wang Wan smiled and lightly hit Zhang Xiaobao. Let's go. Look at Simo Domohi. He's still living well. He doesn't care about his women. Does he? I think he cares about his status. Women are just a tool for him to show his status. What do you want? Zhang Xiaobao blinked twice, looked at the 14 women belonging to Simo Domohi, and then looked at the other strong men in his tribe and asked, just as you guessed, I think those women don't care about him very much. What they have is not love, but a simple social need. No one's departure will hurt anyone. It's not even comparable to the psychological impact of a pet dog's death on the owner. Wang Wan's meaning was very clear. She looked at Zhang Xiaobao, waiting for him to say something supportive. Zhang Xiaobao nodded his head. I think it's okay. Brother, sister, are you really going to give Simo Domo his women to some of the people in his tribe who have contributed the most to us through labor evaluation? Xiao Bei jumped over like a rabbit. As she walked, she tilted her head and asked, How do you know? Zhang Xiaobao habitually patted his sister's head. Xiao Bei was not disgusted. She enjoyed it and let her brother pat her head. She said, Because your life is not a failure. Duo is leading his small tribe to survive, but he doesn't even have a tacit understanding with anyone. He doesn't know what his family is thinking, and his family doesn't know what he's thinking. He's so pitiful. I think so too. He doesn't even have two sisters like our Xiao Bei. Isn't that so? Zhang Xiaobao used internet language. This kind of words sounded very cute, but he would not say it to adults. Yes. Xiao Bei nodded. Go ahead and teach. You're messing up our Chinese culture. You're saying all kinds of things to your younger brothers and sisters. When the time comes, can you still tell who is who? Wang Wan was really helpless against Zhang Xiaobao. He taught blindly, drew cartoons, spoke internet language, wore European princess dresses, ate Western food, and dozens of commonly used foreign languages. His teaching methods were messed up, but Zhang Xiaobao still enjoyed it. Zhang Xiaobao did not care and said they will know how to choose. They say it's Chinese culture, but what is China? Yanhuang? China? Many of the idioms and allusions are not from the Tang Dynasty. If we really talk about things before, why is Chang'an the capital? Does the Central Plains include Chang'an? Chapter 1348. Wang Wan did not have time to argue with Zhang Xiaobao. He could teach them however he wanted. Anyway, her younger siblings had learned well. They were not domineering when dealing with outsiders, and they were not arrogant when dealing with their own people. Moreover, they would be more down-to-earth when speaking to honest people. They would not be at a disadvantage when talking to treacherous people. This was very good. Teaching children was not to let them learn how to ask for guidance, nor was it to let them know how to calculate the games in other people's casinos through probability and fuzzy mathematics. There was also no need to memorize the 4 books and 5 classics. At the same time, they could understand and write the same type of articles. The ultimate goal of teaching children was to let them adapt to society and be able to survive in all kinds of complicated situations. Many people who had countless masters and doctorate degrees under them might not even finish middle school or high school. Since there was no reason to argue, there was no need to argue too much about this. It was better to do something practical. The practical thing was that the people under Seymour Domo, his management, were now bald. Regardless of gender, age, they were also given a medicinal bath. The clothes were not made yet, so they had to wait. Therefore, the children were all naked now. Fortunately, the girls had a simple belly band. Xiao Bei said that he was afraid that Xiao Yuan would see something he should not see. Xiao Yuan did not say anything. He just let people tie leaves with a special smell with a rope and hang it on the little boy, saying that it could repel mosquitoes. The adults were actually the same. Before the new clothes were made, they could not wear their old clothes, except for those that had been washed and sprayed with disinfectant. However, not everyone had several sets of clothes. At noon, a more practical situation appeared. All the old people, children, and pregnant women were given dishes cooked in a large pot by the chefs. There were 2 dishes and a soup. The amount was very large, and they were all meat. Xiao Bei and the others' dishes were naturally cooked by Zhang Xiaobao himself. There was braised mushrooms, fried wild celery, and a vegetarian soup. The fried potato strips inside were the children's favorite. The children of Seymour Domo tribe did not have a share, but the children under Dwudwa's command still ate. Seymour Demoka was in a bad mood when he saw this situation. He didn't care about the mushrooms and wild celery. What he cared about was Zhang Xiaobao's attitude. He was keenly aware of Zhang Xiaobao's status in the Great Tang. The Duigans and the Great Tang had already proven this point. Ordinary people would not be able to eat Zhang Xiaobao's dishes. Normally, only the emperor and Zhang Xiaobao's family could eat them. Just like himself, he used to be able to make some food, but ever since he became the leader, he had never done it. Even when he did, it was for himself. He felt that others did not have the right to taste it, including his women and children. Then he saw the dishes cooked by Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao's woman Wang Wan did not eat them, which was very normal. Xiao Bei and the other 9 people ate them. He was a little confused. Perhaps it was because the children were young and should be taken care of more. There were sick people in the team, but they could also eat. How was this the behavior of a leader? Zhang Xiaobao had degraded his own status. The most infuriating thing was that Duo, a person who could be abandoned at any time, actually allowed their children to eat Zhang Xiaobao's dishes with Xiao Bei. The more he thought about it, the angrier he became. Seymour de Mocha's expression turned gloomy during the meal. He accompanied Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan to eat. He sat on the right side, while Duo sat on the other side. Today's meal was still stew. There was no choice. There were too many people, and they were marching. Regardless of whether they liked it or not, only stew could absorb nutrients the fastest, and it was also the most convenient to cook. When marching and fighting, it was already not bad to be able to eat stew. Under normal circumstances, they would eat dry rations and river water. Zhang Xiaobao did not think that the food was bad. He had once rummaged through the garbage bin to find food, so he had very low standards for food. At the same time, he had very high standards. He could eat anything, but he always liked to personally make more delicious food. He also did not think that Seymour de Mocha's daily life was so extravagant that he could not eat the food made by the chefs from the Zhang Xiaobao and Wang families. This batch of chefs was indeed not the best. Because of their physical conditions, they had to adapt to various climates before they could be brought out. But if you randomly picked one of the chefs from the Zhang Xiaobao and Wang families, how could they be bad? Stew was a cooking method, but it did not mean the taste. Buddha jumps over the wall was also stewed. Who said that it was not delicious? Right now, Seymour de Mocha did not put his mind on the food. Instead, he kept looking at where Xiao Bei and the rest were. Zhang Xiaobao was unhappy. Damn it, why are you looking at my younger brother and sister for no reason? So Zhang Xiaobao was angry. He glared at him. With a bang, he was shocked. He looked carefully. Wang Wan, who was beside him, threw the bowl at Seymour de Mocha. It was so hot that Seymour de Mocha jumped up and hit the bowl while screaming. Zhang Xiaobao was stunned. I haven't done anything yet. Why did you throw the bowl first? Seymour de Mocha, stop screaming. Let me ask you, if you don't eat the food, why are you staring at my younger brother and sister? Tell me, do you want to kidnap them to threaten us? Wang Wan held her chopsticks tightly and questioned. She looked like she was going to stab him with her chopsticks if he did not agree with her. The people nearby, who could hear the commotion, stopped what they were doing and looked over. Xiao Bei, who was eating at a table, threw his bowl on the table. He stood up and took out a small pistol. He pointed it at Seymour de Mocha and said angrily, "So you are targeting us?" Seymour de Mocha did not feel that the stew on his body was hot. He recognized the thing in Xiao Bei's hand. It was called a gun. It was a very beautiful gun. It had a pink surface, a smooth shape, a straight line, and a black muzzle. Especially when the one holding it was a child. A child always carried a gun. If he was in a bad mood or happy mood, how many people would die? No, I am not. I am not looking at you. I am looking at Dwudwa's child. I am not convinced. Why can their child eat with you, but my child can't? Seymour de Mocha had to tell the truth. He was afraid. He was not afraid of Wang Wan and Zhang Xiaobao, but of Xiao Bei, who was holding a gun. It was the same reason why the Tang Empire's officials were afraid. Children had the biggest advantage. They were impulsive and unreasonable. They were not as rational as adults. It was normal for them to do things that they should not do. Xiao Bei looked at his sister. Wang Wan and Wei Wei turned sideways. He made a few gestures with his hands and blinked his eyes. Xiao Bei understood. So it was to trick people to seize power. Seymour de Mocha was really sad. Knowing that he had to find an excuse to deal with people, Xiao Bei was very cooperative. He said to Seymour de Mocha with a cold face, "What does me inviting Uncle Dwudwa's child to eat have to do with you? I understand now. You did not follow us willingly because you lost the bet. You want to steal our power while you follow us. You are so ambitious. You even want to control me? Don't you want to know who I am? In the whole world, other than my parents, Xiao Yuan's parents, our grandparents, and my brothers and sisters, who dares to control me? I, Xiao Bei, came to this world to enjoy life. I am not to be controlled by a person who lost the bet, a leader of a tribe with only 3,000 people. Are you unhappy? There are many things that make you unhappy. Do I need to care about you? You don't eat when you are eating. When you stare at me, I feel uncomfortable. Who asked me to? What did I say? All right. Whoever makes me feel uncomfortable for a while, I will make them feel uncomfortable for life. Tell me, how do you want to die? Are you bullying me because I am a child? Let me tell you, many people have died in my hands. Have I ever blinked? In my eyes, human lives are like grass. Humph. Xiao Nan, kill him. Bang. Xiao Nan opened fire and shattered the bowl in Seymour Damoka's hand. Bang. Another sound was heard as the wind blew a hole in Seymour Damoka's sleeve. Then, Xiao Nan frowned and looked at his gun. He said, "Why is it wrong? I was aiming at the head." Again, shoot a few more times. I don't believe that it won't hurt at least once, Xiaobei said. Seymour Damoka immediately knelt down and looked at Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. He shouted, "Help, Xiaobao, cuckoo, I won't dare to look blindly anymore." That's not right. Who allowed you to shoot so casually? Pistols also have recoil. What if you hurt your wrists? Pay attention to your status. You have to kill people personally. Zhang Xiaobao scolded Xiaobei and the others. Wang Wan also glared at the little guys in front of Seymour Damoka and said, "Xiaobao, I think Seymour Damoka didn't mean it. Why don't you give him a chance?" Yes, give me a chance. I definitely won't dare to look blindly in the future. I won't be jealous either. Seymour Damoka realized that Cuckoo was a good person. She was better than Xiaobao. Xiaobao wanted to shoot to shock his wrists. How can my younger brothers and sisters be wronged? This time I definitely can't. Enough. Seymour Damoka already knows that he was wrong. Why force him to death? Wang Wan interrupted Zhang Xiaobao. She looked at Seymour Damoka and continued, "Chief Seymour Damoka, although this matter doesn't matter much, children are different from adults. I can't tie them up. How about this? You stay away from them and don't let them see you. What if the little guy shoots accurately again? Don't you think so?" Yes. I'll stay away. I won't be near them. Seymour Damoka agreed readily. Someone come and take Seymour Damoka to a safe place, Wang Wan ordered. Immediately, someone came and took Seymour Damoka to a safe place. Seymour Damoka felt very wronged. He didn't mean that. How did it become like this? He didn't know that he actually didn't feel wronged at all. If he could let the elders in the tribe accompany him to eat, or let his women accompany him to eat, Wang Wan would temporarily tolerate him. But he only cared about himself. He was too selfish. This kind of selfishness reflected in the process of surrendering. He didn't have any weaknesses. Even if you used his family to threaten him, it would be useless. This kind of person could be used, but could not be trusted. The problem was that Wang Wan felt that Seymour Damoka didn't even have any value to be used. He didn't look like a traitor who could be used to help the team and their own people. After using him, they would get rid of him. In this world, no enemy would be good to a traitor. It only depended on how much the traitor could contribute. Therefore, Wang Wan decided to follow the plan. She didn't kill Seymour Damoka, but tied him up. Chapter 1349. Seymour Domo was sent to a place where he could not interact with his own tribe. Wang Wan was still angry and coldly ordered, "Didn't you see my food spilled? Give me another portion." Immediately, someone brought a new bowl of stew over and begged for forgiveness. Wang Wan waved her hand and chased him away. Duo was dumbfounded. He had been watching and listening from the beginning, but he could not figure out what was going on. It was a very normal situation. Why was Seymour Domo being escorted away? And that young man's marksmanship. Previously, he had shot the deer more than 300 meters away and directly pierced through the eyes. Now he was less than 10 steps away, and both shots were off. Wasn't Cuckoo very good to her subordinates? Why did she treat them so coldly? Previously, she did not eat special food and ate with everyone. She seemed to be very protective of her subordinates. Now that she acted like this, wasn't she afraid that her subordinates would be disappointed? "Madam, don't be angry. It's a small matter." Zhang Xiaobao smiled and comforted her. "Shut up. Seeing you annoys me. You can't do anything well. Look at Xiao Bei and the others. How much grievance did they suffer just now? Don't talk to me, today. Wang Wan scolded Zhang Xiaobao again. Zhang Xiaobao's smile was even more flattering. Yes, yes. Madam is right. Duo began to feel depressed. He realized that he could not keep up with other people's thoughts. Cuckoo was too domineering. Zhang Xiaobao was not like a man at all. The others returned to their previous state, but Wang Wan kept a cold face. Xiao Bei quietly nudged the young man and gave him a thumbs up, meaning that he was really good at shooting. The young man was very embarrassed and said softly, "It's okay." The cook, who was scolded by Wang Wan just now, was also very happy when he returned. He even took out a small mirror and tried to imitate the expression from before. Then he boasted, "I'm also a good actor." Stop bragging. Just now, when I saw you cooperate, your hands were shaking. A woman beside him snatched the mirror and rolled her eyes at the chef. Chef chuckled. "Madam, you can't expose me right in front of my face. Even if you bully me, you won't be able to show off your abilities. Be careful, if the young master and young lady find out, they'll teach you a lesson. Don't think that you're powerful and take advantage of them. Just because I didn't say anything doesn't mean that I really don't know how to resist. You only know how to use the young master and young lady to pressure me. When did you become the second master?" The woman continued to roll her eyes at Chef. "How could I bear to? It's fine if you bully me when you have nothing to do. Look at our family's little young master. He always gives in to his wife. You have to learn more from your wife." "It's fine if you bully me when you have nothing to do, but when you have something to do, you have to support me. I know. I always listen to you, especially at night. What about tonight? Idiot." Duo didn't know how the chef who delivered the dishes communicated with the woman just now. He was still using his little experience and wisdom to analyze Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan's behavior. Wang Wan had an "I'm very angry" look, but she didn't eat less. It was lunch, so she had to eat more. Otherwise, it would be difficult to cope with the exhaustion of her body. Zhang Xiaobao also ate a lot. The only difference was that there was no staple food at noon today. There was only meat and wild vegetables in the stew. So he ate very slowly and chewed very carefully so that his stomach could digest faster and replenish the nutrients before he finished eating. Wang Wan was the same. She chewed fast and ate slowly. The more broken the food in her stomach, the more the stomach acid would come in contact with. Moreover, she drank some white wine, a tail, to stimulate the gastric acid secretion. Duo didn't think that it was bad. Eating vegetables seemed to be the same as eating rice. It was fine as long as he could eat until he was full. After eating 3 bowls in a row, he couldn't eat anymore. He sat there and looked at the tail of wine in the wine cup in front of him, reluctant to drink. "Come, find the warriors in the tribe." Wang Wan found that she couldn't eat anymore, but there was still some food in the second bowl in front of her. She put down her chopsticks and ordered. There were many warriors in the Shima Duomo tribe. Wang Wan called for the warriors, but in fact, they were all leaders of small tribes. They might not be the best hunters, but they were the smartest in the tribe. A group of people gathered and looked at Wang Wan. They were all full. One was because the dishes were really good, and the other was because there was enough salt. It was not like before, when there was little salt, they didn't put it in the food. Instead, they took out a little and put it in the water to drink, or put the food there, and then dipped it in the salt to eat. Now that they could eat casually, they naturally wanted to eat more. Therefore, they didn't chew and directly swallowed it. Even the soup of the stew was not wasted. Wang Wan and Zhang Xiaobao could also understand. That was why they didn't let people cook the staple food at noon. Otherwise, it was easy to make the people in the tribe eat too much and get sick. The digestion of staple food was very slow. Of course, it was easy to delay the digestion. Drink water. After eating, keep drinking water. The concentration of stomach acid was low, so the digestion of food could be slowed down. The disadvantage was that drinking too much water would cause diarrhea. Wang Wan didn't care about how others ate. Seeing that everyone was here, she said, "Now I will announce a new rule. Women in the tribe who don't have a man can choose a man by themselves. Women who already have a man can also choose a new man. But a woman can only choose one man, and a man can only choose one woman. In the past, a man who had many women could still have many women, as long as the woman didn't leave him. From tomorrow onwards, the resource point system will be implemented. It means that how much game a man can get, he will get the same amount of points. The same goes for the wild vegetables a woman picks. Go back and tell them, if I find any man threatening a woman, I will kill him directly. After speaking, Wang Wan waved her hand like she was shooing away flies. She lowered her head and continued to eat slowly. In the end, there was only 1/3 of the bowl left. She pushed it in front of Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao took it and continued to eat. As he ate, he said, "Fortunately, I am prepared. You usually don't eat this much, but you insist on eating more. Do you think your digestive system can change immediately according to your situation? That's why I say you are a good husband. You usually look like you don't pay attention to anything, but in fact, you are very careful. Don't worry, I won't leave you and choose another man." Wang Wan said to Zhang Xiaobao with a smile, "I really don't care. I can't keep you because I don't have the ability. But if you leave, don't think about coming back. I have done everything I can. If I can't keep the woman I love by my side and let her go with someone else, it means we are not fated. You should tell those leaders that a man can have more than one woman, just like us. Men who don't have women should not complain about society, but should be self-reliant. The status of women has never improved. Their improvement is relative, because they find men who can get more living resources. So there is a phenomenon. Men who earn more money also have more women. For men who earn less money, the status of women has improved. But for men who earn more money, the status of women is lower." Zhang Xiaobao said with a nonchalant expression as he ate. Wang Wan continued to beat Zhang Xiaobao. Male chauvinism. You care about the woman who loves you, but you never compromise with the woman who wants to leave. For the woman you love, you can give up everything, but you will never be sad because of a woman's betrayal. You will not wrong the woman who loves you, but you will not wrong yourself because of the woman who wants to leave you. Unfortunately, there are few people like you. Many men want to find more women when they have the chance. When a woman wants to leave them, they feel uncomfortable. That's because they don't treat women as lovers, and they don't treat themselves as human beings. A person's life is only a few decades. Who cares about your life? If you've seen through everything and think that men and women are the same, then you can find 10,000 women. If you've seen through everything and think that you only love one person in your life, then you'd better not find a second woman, because you can't get past yourself. You are the latter. I never measure my success or failure by the number of women. So what you said just now made me very angry. You are needlessly provoking my view of love. As for me now, you are gentle enough, right? What are you doing? I just said it accidentally. Don't be angry, honey. I know you are a good man, at least a good man in the eyes of women like me. Of course, many women may not have the same position as me. Eat quickly. Others have finished eating and are waiting for you. At first, Wang Wan gave in, but later on, she felt uncomfortable and glared at him. Zhang Xiaobao immediately lowered his head and ate fiercely. Who asked him to care about his only wife? If he spoke too deeply, it would hurt their feelings. The two of them had a debate and psychological analysis, but the Shima Domo tribe was in chaos. Many men felt the crisis, and many women felt that there was new hope. Then the struggle between women and men and between men and men began. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan held hands and watched coldly from the sidelines. They felt that there was no right or wrong in the struggle between men and women. There was only choice. Of course, such a choice could be regretted and chosen again. Unlike Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, once you made a choice, even if you regretted it, you had to admit that time had passed. There was also the rejection in the depths of your heart. A mistake was a mistake, and you would not be given another chance to start over. The two of them had such personalities. So when they watched the people of the Shima Domo tribe make another round of choice, they felt both blessed and disappointed. It's too cruel. Originally, they were together, but many of them left. Little Yuan, will you do it in the future? Little Bei did not know about love, let alone sex, but she knew that it was a very painful thing when the people she usually played with suddenly became strangers. Little Yuan also frowned as he watched. He really could not understand and was as sad as Little Bei. When he heard Little Bei's question, he thought for a while and said, when a man rides a bamboo horse, he uses a tripping rope. Watering orchids and flowers together, they both look forward to blooming. Little Yuan, I know you're the best. I won't put a tripping rope for you in the future. Brother Ilong, will you think of the jingle-like nursery rhyme that Little Yuan just sang? Little Bei happily pinched Little Yuan and asked Su Ilong. Su Ilong, who thought that she had gotten over the shadow, suddenly remembered what happened 2 days ago. Jingles and nursery rhymes? You can't scold people like that. You can't kill people like that. Chapter 1350. Now that Seymour Duomo's authority had been taken away, the women in the tribe were redistributed. The men in the tribe did not show any sense of collective honor. They were happy and worked harder to hunt wild beasts. The women in the tribe were more excited than the men. For the first time, they felt that their status had been elevated. They could freely choose a man instead of being assigned to a specific person. Therefore, they dug up all kinds of wild herbs seriously and took good care of the children in the tribe. It was like the simplest animal courtship. Regardless of whether it was a female or a male, they had to show their strengths to attract a better partner. This was natural selection. It was the most tragic for the males. They had to defeat their own kind to get the opposite sex. This was how the tribe survived. The old men that Seymour Duomo did not kill were taken care of by Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan like treasures. Seymour Duomo did not kill them, not because he did not want to, but because he did not dare to. For people who depended on the weather for their livelihood, it was too difficult for the young to survive. When to plant the crops, when to harvest them, and how to take care of them were all knowledge or experience. If they killed all the old men, the tribe would be ruined. That was why Seymour Duomo left a small group of strong old men to do the work when there was no danger. When there was a problem that could not be solved, he would ask them for help. Just like how Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan loved the local old men when they went to Luzhou, the experienced old men could predict the weather more accurately than satellite cloud maps. Of course, weather prediction was also an accumulation of experience. It was not enough to just have equipment. There must be a corresponding module and a calculation formula. It's going to rain. It's going to rain heavily. It will rain for at least 5 days. I was wondering why the weather was so stuffy. Zhang Xiaobao had just received information from the old men in the tribe that there would be 5 days of continuous heavy rain. Wang Wan did not doubt this at all. There had always been a lot of rain in the area, otherwise there would not be floods every year. However, it had rained for 5 days in a row. How could the team cross the river? The Brahmaputra River was not a small ditch. It was impossible to swim across the river unless they threw away all their supplies. With this thought in mind, Wang Wan began to fret. I kind of hate Zhang, Shogui, and Yang Xixuan. They had many ships before, but they destroyed all of them after attacking the man-eaters. There's no time to cut wood now. Are we really going to have to run all the way to the Bay of Bengal and then cross the sea? It's mainly because the locals are too poor and backward. Can't you just build a bridge? Using chains or bamboo ropes with boards on top will make it much more convenient. We can't afford to be delayed for 5 days. I'll get someone to ask when they'll get off the boat. If they can spare 10 hours, we'll cross the river now. Zhang Xiaobao had a deeper understanding of the battle for bridges in war. It was no wonder that in every major war, there would be countless bridge explosions and bridge defenses. Building a ship was truly not an easy and relaxing job. Speed was the most important thing in war. The old men in the tribe ate pretty good food, and new clothes were made for them first. Similarly, They did not have much of a sense of belonging to their tribe. When they were questioned again, they discussed it with each other and came to a rough and accurate conclusion. It would take no more than 6 hours, at most 4 hours. Moreover, there would be light rain in front of them. Sending more than 15,000 people across the river in 4 hours, including livestock and other supplies, was a terrifying task. If it were a war, perhaps they would first force a portion of the people and weapons across, and then stand guard on the other side of the river. Once the situation on the river improved, they would then provide cover for the others to cross. Duoduodo clearly did not think that they could cross now. He did not care about the delay, as long as he and his tribe had a good life. Seymour Domo, who was being controlled, rejoiced in his misfortune. He was not stupid. How could he not guess that his authority had been taken away by someone else? Furthermore, it was the most despicable scheme and means. His woman was no longer his. He even hoped that there would be a flood that would drown all the Tang people, or that there would be a landslide on the mountain where they were camping. But it was clear that the Tang army, whether they were marching or resting, was extremely meticulous in surveying their surroundings. There was simply no danger like this, unless there was a sudden earthquake that caused the entire area to collapse. Since he could not count on a flood or a landslide to pose a threat to the Tang people, it was not bad to slow them down. Seeing the Tang people unhappy would make him feel better. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan did not have extra time to think about whether there were people with dirty thoughts. The two of them were calculating what they could do in 4 hours. Build the boats and cross the river. It's time to test us. We don't have 10 hours of preparation time, only 4 hours. Who is the elite will be shown at this moment. Wang Wan gritted her teeth and made up her mind. An ordinary Tang army would need 10 hours to complete the task, but her family's team was not an ordinary Tang army. They had to be different. I think it will work. Zhang Xiaobao knew that it was time for him to go out and help with the planning. 4 hours. Cutting trees, setting up boats, crossing the river. Everyone had to move. With an order, the entire team began to move at full speed. Xiao Bei and the others stayed together, not moving around or making a sound. They also called all the children to their sides and took turns singing, dancing, and telling stories. Su Yilong was watching and learning. She knew that the 9 little guys were usually very steady, but they were always surprised when telling stories. The plot of the story deeply attracted the children of the tribe, and the environment and culture in the story were also in line with the local situation. The 9 little guys told the story in the form of relay. One person would talk for a few minutes, and the next person would change. The plot was continuous. This made Su Yilong confused. She pulled Xiao Bei, who had just finished telling the story, and asked, "Where did you hear the story from?" "Here. We made it up ourselves, okay? Do we need to learn this kind of story without any connotation from others? We have succeeded in dealing with the past few hours. The adults are all busy, and the children can't run around. It just so happens that you have nothing to do. Do you know how to play a musical instrument? Any one of you, we will improvise a song, and you will be responsible for the accompaniment. Everyone in the team has their own position and value. It's time for you to show your value." When Xiao Bei was explaining to Su Yilong, she suddenly remembered that the other party had nothing to do, so she quickly arranged a job for her. Su Yilong showed a troubled expression. He knew how to play musical instruments, and he knew quite a few of them. Huqin, pipa, flute, and guqin, he could play a lot of songs. But when it came to improvising accompaniment, he was confused. He knew what it meant. It was that the other party randomly found a tune to sing, and he had to use an instrument to match it. There was no practice during the process, and there was no fixed tune. The requirements for the performer were extraordinarily high. Even the women in the brothel didn't have such means, unless they found a professional band in the pear garden. I'm afraid that I can't cooperate well," Su Yilong said with a blush. "You can't even play a tune? Then tell me, what's the use of you? I only know now that brother's words are very reasonable." Xiao Bei was very dissatisfied. She always felt that it was fine to play as much as she wanted, but she had to be able to take it out at the critical moment. Since she couldn't do it, why did she play along and not learn? Su Ilong didn't have any confidence to refute, and asked with a red face, "What did your brother say? Don't be afraid of a god-like opponent, but be afraid of a pig-like teammate." Xiao Bei said mercilessly. "I'm a pig?" Su Ilong's face was even redder. Xiao Bei curled her lips. "Don't belittle other people's pigs. Pigs can swim over. But can you swim? You still need us to help you." "Look at you, you can't shoot accurately, you don't have the strength to move things, you don't even know how to use a knife when cooking. Your drawing isn't as vivid as Sister Xiaoju's. Your poetry isn't as good as Xiao Yuan's. And your calculation isn't as good as Brother Xiaohai's. You didn't discover your organizational ability at all, and you still refuse to accompany the accompaniment. I don't even know what words to use to describe you." Su Ilong only felt her face burning. She admitted that Xiao Bei was right. She didn't have any advantages in such a team, and all the strengths she could show were ruthlessly suppressed by others. "How about this? You don't need to accompany, you can be a prop, okay?" Xiao Bei was not thinking about how to attack people, but to use them, so she could only rearrange. "What prop?" Su Ilong asked, but she had already nodded. It was not good for her to not agree. If she was useless, she might as well die. "You've seen our toys, right? There are a lot of big-headed people in it. It looks very simple, but if you want to show it completely, you have to coordinate the actions. We'll tell a story, and you'll wear the big-headed people. You can think of your own actions according to the plot of our story, okay?" Xiao Bei thought about it and chose the simplest thing for Su Ilong to do. "You mean I'll be ordered around by you?" Su Ilong obviously didn't want to do this. "You tell the story, and we'll wear the big-headed people to coordinate with you. Okay?" Xiao Bei asked. Let me wear it, I'll do my best." Su Ilong had nothing to say, because she didn't know how to tell stories. She had already decided to change herself, but there wasn't enough time. Now that she had encountered a situation, she had to cooperate. Otherwise, she would lose her last bit of use. Xiao Bei and the others took care of the children, and the adults were very fast. Those who were chopping trees did not stop, and those who were weaving ropes did not stop. Some people had thin threads on their bodies and first swam over, and then used the thin threads to pull the thick threads bit by bit. After waiting for 2 hours, rows of lattices like swimming lanes appeared on the river surface. The logs were placed down and walked along the lattices, one after another. Soon, a pontoon bridge was formed, and after a simple fixing, a large group of people and horses could pass through. Before the rain fell from the sky, the heavy weapons were first transported over. After waiting for 3.5 hours, the rain began to fall. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the sky, and the other supplies began to be transported. After 4 hours, the rain became heavier. Only then did the others leave, and the river surface did not rise much for the time being. After 4.5 hours, the ropes that no one continued to reinforce were broken by the rushing of the river. The tribesmen who crossed the river looked back and let the rain fall on their bodies, as if they were in a dream. Chapter 1351. The people in the tribe knew what kind of river this was. It flooded every year. If the weather was bad, they might spend half a year in the water. The plains where the river rushed out were the plantation they relied on for survival. The mountains were where they hid from a flood. They were powerless to resist and could only obey. They also knew how fierce and merciless this river was. They had seen the Tang army before. They were fierce and powerful, especially with weapons that they had never seen before. They could kill people from afar, and they could even kill a large number of people. The leader had already said that this was the most powerful army of the Tang Empire. It was even more powerful than their own army. That army also crossed the river. With boats, they crossed the river very quickly. They were much faster than the people in the tribe. In the past, there were about the same number of people now, but they did not even need to use the boats for a day. The leader said that they were the most powerful, But that was the most powerful. What were they doing now? When they cut down trees, they did not use handheld saws. They used a buzzing thing. In a short while, one person cut down the tree. Then, he used the useless tree branch to gently cut that thing off. Although the sound was unpleasant to hear, the speed was so fast that it was unbelievable. In the end, in a little more than 2 hourglasses, they all crossed the river. They had the same number of people, but they were twice as fast as the most powerful Tang army. What kind of army was this? There was a relatively older child who was not a coward. Seeing that no one was restricting him, he ran to the side of the protected Seymour Domo and asked, "Chief, their army is more powerful than the ones that came before. Didn't you say that the ones that came before were the best?" Seymour Domo, he liked this child very much because this was his son, his biological son. It was just that he never had the chance to admit it. It was not that he did not want to, but he did not dare. This son was born to one of the king's women. He met her when he went to the royal city. Then, he tried his best to bring this woman to the tribe. However, she was not his woman, but the king's woman. Therefore, this child's status had always been very high, and he was doted on. However, he could not and did not dare to say such things. The child grew up, and the king seemed to have forgotten that he had a woman. Every time he saw the child looking at him with a condescending and unfamiliar gaze, Seymour Domo felt his heart ache. He felt that he owed the child a lot. Hearing the child's question, Seymour Domo thought for a while and said to the child, "The Tang army that came before was indeed the best. However, what you see now is not the Tang army. It is the army of Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. They are in the Tang, but their army is not under the control of the Tang." It is said that there are two similar armies in the Tang Empire. One is under the command of the emperor of the Tang Empire, and the other is under the command of Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. So when we lost the bet, we could only submit. We can't beat them. Then why didn't they rebel? The child's thinking was very simple. He thought that with the power of the army, he could be the emperor. Seymour Domo looked around vigilantly. Seeing that no one was paying attention to them, he breathed a sigh of relief and whispered, "Don't say such things in the future. I also want them to rebel, but they won't." What do they use to cut down trees? The child was also worried. Although he was young, he also knew that as long as this kind of army rebelled, the Tang Empire would not have time to bully his own country. Seymour Domo shook his head. "I don't know. Go and ask Xiao Bei and the rest. They should know. They can bring you along to play. Yes. They sing well, dance well, and can tell stories. I will go and ask them now." When the child thought of Xiao Bei and the rest, he immediately became happy. After saying this, he jumped and ran to look for them. Xiao Bei did not hide anything from the child about the technology. She told the child everything she knew about the diesel-powered chainsaw. Anyway, she understood that she only knew how to do it, but not why. The principle was very simple, but it was very difficult to make it. The team brought the advanced chainsaw with the results of scientific research. One was to be used at critical times, and the other was to collect data for the Ministry of Works. At the same time, they also had to help the agriculture temple cut down some uncommon trees and collect seeds when conditions permitted. Xiao Bei did not believe that the people in the tribe could make a chainsaw just by looking at it and listening to the principle. If they really had that kind of level, Xiao Bei did not mind teaching them more theoretical knowledge. The child who asked for information was indeed not a genius. Even if Xiao Bei explained a theory in a very simple way, he still could not understand. Knowledge needs to be accumulated. Just like a newborn child, you can't even stand properly, so how can you know what is running? So for the next few days, you have to stay by our side and learn. Call the other children together. In a month's time, I'm going to take an exam. Whoever does well will get an electric toy. It's more fun than a chainsaw. Xiao Bei saw that the child really could not understand, so she gave up on the idea of finding a genius. She began to use this matter to tempt the child. Giving out an electric toy a month was not a big deal. The learning that Xiao Bei mentioned was actually learning the Tang language and the Tang language. Every day, she would teach the child to pronounce 10 words and write 2 words. In a month, she would be able to pronounce 300 words and write 60 words. Teaching a child to learn the Tang language was difficult, but teaching a group of children was easier. They would definitely communicate with each other, repeatedly speaking and listening. Even if a child forgot, the others would be able to recall it with a reminder. The 9 children were very clear that they were engaging in a cultural invasion. However, the children and adults in the tribe did not understand. They were happy to learn, and they were happy to see the children learn. After crossing the river, they walked in the heavy rain for 3 days. Before the rain stopped, the group arrived at a plain. The plain was not as flat as one would expect. It could not be compared to the iconic plains of the Tang Empire. At a glance, there were no protrusions. Instead, there were small hills and hills. In the autumn season, there were still various colors accompanying them. It lacked the most charming red and yellow leaves. It was also because of this that the group dared to move at a normal speed. Otherwise, in such heavy rain, they would really suspect that there was a swamp ahead. Xiao Bei and the others didn't discover any swamps. Instead, they felt that the grass here was very tall, and the trees were very dense. Seeing that the people walking around had all changed into high-waisted boots and leather pants, they could imagine how dangerous it was. Thus, Xiao Bei and the others kept their heads down as they walked, afraid that some snake that had escaped detection would jump up. From time to time, the sound of gunshots would echo in the air, accompanied by the cries of some animal. Another 2 days passed, and the group left the place where it was constantly raining. Only then did they come to a riverside to rest. They had to wash their clothes and bathe. They also had to eat the animals that they had hunted a few days ago and simply prepared. There were elephants, tigers, wolves, deer, and other animals. These animals did not enjoy the benefits of crossbows and were directly shot down by guns. When dealing with a small elephant herd, they had no choice but to use grenade launchers and mortars. The group really did not have the time to waste on these animals. Otherwise, they would not be able to complete their strategic objective. There were already 2,000 people pushing forward lightly. When they reached the place, they would hide and guide the path for the large group behind. Brother, didn't you say that people are resistant to cultural invasion? Why is it that when I teach them to speak the Tang language, they like to learn it? Xiao Bei took a bath, changed her clothes, and became beautiful and clean again. She found her brother, who was cooking, and asked. Zhang Xiaobao was cooking the elephant's ears. The 2 big ears were placed in a pot and braised with seasonings. The elephant's tail and trunk were left to others to handle. The rest of the meat was cut into pieces and boiled in very salty water. Wang Wan was helping at the side. She was the same as Zhang Xiaobao. She did not like to eat the elephant's trunk, and it was not like the geoduck clam. However, the elephant's ears were not bad. There were crispy bones inside, and they were bigger and thicker than pig's ears. They tasted good. Of course, one could not eat too much of them. If one ate too much, one would get sick of the taste. Xiao Bei also knew which part was delicious. After asking, she stared at the pointy part of the elephant's ears and swallowed twice. Zhang Xiaobao was bored and guarded the pot. From time to time, he would use a spoon to push the elephant's ears or add some water. The ears were big, and the pot was small. He was afraid that they would stick to the bottom and dry up. When he saw Xiao Bei come over and ask, he took the spoon and stirred the pot twice. He answered, "This is the terrifying part of cultural invasion. Because there is no war, it will not cause any harm to the body. When a strong country transmits its culture to a weak country, only a small portion of the weak country's people will be worried. The rest will support it. Learning the language of a strong country is not very useful, unless you want to go to a strong country or have close contact with people from a strong country." Xiao Bei nodded. Just as she was about to continue asking, Zhang Xiaobao continued, "Then why do you want to learn it? There are a few factors that cannot be ignored. First, you are not sure if you will have to deal with people from a strong country in the future. Second, there are many technical and literary things that require you to know the language of a strong country. Third, the fear and yearning of the weak for the strong. Fourth, this is more sinister. Sinister in what way? Xiao Bei was very interested in this. A weak country has a large population, but the people are smart and willing to work hard. Most importantly, the majority of people have their own thoughts that belong to the soul of their people. At the same time, they have a strong ability to integrate. At this time, learning the language of a strong country is very useful. Today, a portion of them will migrate to a strong country, and tomorrow, another portion will migrate. Everyone will live together without language barriers. When the population reaches a certain level, the strong country will not be able to ignore this group of people. In the process of mutual influence and change, the race with a strong integration will definitely gradually gain the advantage. This may take a long time, but according to the theory of racial survival, this is reasonable. Zhang Xiaobao explained with a smile. Then will the people who go to a strong country protect their original country when there is a conflict? Xiao Bei did not believe it. Zhang Xiaobao also did not believe it. He shook his head. Not necessarily. A person's mind is the most difficult to understand. Unless a weak country becomes a strong country, it will be possible for the majority of the people who went to a strong country to support it. But if that is the case, what is the use of those who went to a strong country? Why should they learn other people's language? Xiao Bei imagined that the people of the great Tang would become people of other countries after going to other countries. She felt very uncomfortable because they have to interact and learn. In fact, there is still a small portion of people who can be useful to their original country. This is very good. Zhang Xiaobao felt that it was too profound to talk about such things with his sister. For a moment, it was difficult to understand. So he immediately ended the topic. He immediately scooped up some soup from the pot and put it to his mouth. He stuck out his tongue and said to his sister, "I think it's too bland. Try it." "No, it's all seasoning." Xiao Bei took a step back. She knew that the braised soup was delicious, but it did not mean that the braised soup was delicious. Zhang Xiaobao smiled. "Then go and see if there is anything else you can help with. When the braised soup is ready, I will call you." "Okay, I will continue to teach the children the language of the Great Tang. In fact, I'm also learning their language. It is not that I have any yearning for a lousy country like theirs. I just hope that when I interact with them in the future, I can do it myself and not be deceived by them." Xiao Bei looked at the two big ears in the pot. She clasped her hands behind her back and walked away like a teacher. Chapter 1352. Cultural invasion had always been a long and arduous task. Wanting to carry out cultural invasion without large-scale slaughter was basically no different from a dream. Xiao Bei did not expect that the tribe's children would immediately abandon their own ethnic traditions after she taught them. However, Xiao Bei had an absolute advantage. She was a child herself, and there were 8 other children supporting her from behind. After some research, to Sui Long's surprise, Xiao Bei began to introduce the situation of Tang Dynasty to the children in the tribe through an interpreter. She didn't mention anything about boundless fields, towering mountains, or surging rivers. She was talking about the endless amount of honey that could be eaten, the fatty but not greasy braised pork, the sleigh that could run hundreds of steps in the snow with a gentle slide, the maze that could not find a way out after turning around, and the mirror that could change into various shapes. In addition, there were beautiful clothes, water guns that could shoot very far, and all kinds of huge animals in cages that could jump into lakes that would not sink. The children in the tribe listened to Xiao Bei's introduction and imagined a dreamy fairy tale world. They were all full of yearning for Tang Dynasty. Su Yilong felt that this was a lie. She admitted that Tang Dynasty did have everything that Xiao Bei said, especially the braised pork. This thing was also a kind of extravagant hope for the adults. They could not eat it every day. It was a good life to eat it every 3 to 5 days. The children could eat it because they were in the school and had the support of countless merchants. The merchants' thoughts were very simple and could be classified into 4 categories. First, they felt that the local children were indebted to them because they had paid for it. Then, in the future, the local adults would have to help them. Su Ilong felt that this kind of people were too direct, but she could not criticize them. They had simple thoughts and really did it. Second, they wanted a reputation. At the same time, it was also for their own family's business. Under normal circumstances, they were merchants who did daily necessities. If they did not take money, people would not go to their shop to buy things. Third, their business was big. They needed more loans from banks to complete the operation of the funds. If they did not take money, the examination would be stricter than the merchants who took money. Especially when there was no physical collateral, credit loans were impossible. What credibility did a merchant who was not willing to take risks for Tang Dynasty's children have? A sense of social responsibility was not just for show. Fourth, their family was rich, and they simply liked children. They just wanted to see their children's smiling faces. There was no end to the complexity of human nature, but Su Ilong knew that in such a complicated society, it was no different from a dream for someone who was not from the Great Tang to enjoy the same benefits. This group of children had been filled with hope by Xiaobei's words, and all of them worked even harder to learn the language and characters of the Great Tang. However, the result that awaited them was that even if they entered the Great Tang, they would still need to pay if they wanted to go to school. This was because many outsiders had already begun to do so. For example, the wealthy families of Xinluo and Japan took the initiative to come to the Great Tang without being invited by the Great Tang. They exchanged the money they earned in their own country with the Great Tang Bank in their own country for the money of the Great Tang. They brought their children to the Great Tang just to let their children have a better future. Su Ilong felt that as a powerful country, it was wrong to bully a small tribe. They should show more magnanimity. And Xiaobei and the others were too utilitarian. He planned to have a good talk with Xiaobei and the others. At the very least, he would stop lying to them. Otherwise, his conscience wouldn't be able to live with it. Snow white paper is very precious. It's even more precious than the leather and cloth you use to write. Let me show you what the children of the Great Tang use. Just as Su Ilong was about to have a good talk with Xiaobei and the others, Xiaobei took out a book. It was a very simple book with large white characters. The cover was an ink painting with linen patterns. There were 2 lines of words on it, without a chill to the bone. How can there be the fragrance of plum blossoms? The words were written like plum blossoms, proud and unyielding. Su Ilong had never heard of anyone who wrote this sentence, and he didn't know that the words were called thin gold. The only thing he admitted was that what it said made sense, and the writing was not bad, whether it was the content or the words. But now, all of this was not the main point. The main point was Xiaobei's publicity. As long as you come to the Great Tang, you will have the chance to use such beautiful paper. Is it white? Come, let our sister Xiao Zhu write a few words. Xiaobei passed a pencil to Xiao Zhu, who was beside him. Xiao Zhu was very shy and didn't like to talk, just like Xiao Hai. When the 2 of them were together, they had a common language. Xiao Zhu often helped Xiao Hai to draw pictures. Xiao Zhu could always draw a line that Xiao Hai needed to use when calculating very accurately. So Xiao Hai recognized this future wife. He also always helped Xiao Zhu to calculate the scale of a picture, especially the golden section line. He calculated that very quickly. With a few strokes, with Xiao Yuan's cooperation, Xiao Zhu wrote the words on the white paper. The content was simple. It was a children's song that Xiao Yuan wrote at the last minute. But when he was talking about the children's song, Xiao Yuan looked at Su Ilong. Isn't it beautiful? Xiao Bei continued with his cultural invasion. Xiao Sister Bei what? A child in the tribe who was younger than Xiao Bei asked with the language he just learned. Normally he should ask, Sister Xiao Bei, what did you write? But he was not familiar with the culture of the Great Tang. Once the word sister overlapped, it would be distant. People who were close to each other would usually only call one word, brother, sister, and master. If the overlapping usage was used together, it would be called brother and sister. If the brother was placed in front, it would be brother, followed by sister. If the sister was placed in front, it would be sister, followed by brother. How would the children in the tribe know the depth of Chinese culture? They could only understand according to what they learned. Su Ilong also did not correct the other people's way of addressing. He was now thinking about what Xiao Yuan wrote. In fact, even if Xiao Yuan wrote 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 7 6 5 4 3 2 1, Su Ilong would not laugh at it. He did not dare to. He did not want to be lectured by Xiao Yuan again. Su Ilong knew that people were so strange. When a person with a few million strings of coins wore a set of hemp clothes, others would praise him. When a person had a few strings of coins but insisted on wearing silk, others would laugh at him. It was the same when it came to writing articles. A person who could write classical literature, even if he used common language in the process of writing, people who read it would not belittle him, because they would know what kind of foundation he had. But if he could not even write classical literature and insisted on pretending to write, even if he used a few decent-looking words in the article, people would look down on him. It could be seen from the writing. It was very simple. Different contexts used different words. It would only make people laugh. Su Ilong knew about Xiao Yuan's background. Even if it was a children's song, he still had to treat it seriously. Xiao Bei looked at the children's song written by Xiao Yuan and gave Xiao Chang a look. Xiao Chang immediately took out a harmonica from his bag. Sister wrote Rainbow Clouds Chasing Moon. Start. Xiao Bei nodded and gestured. Miso miso do 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 do. Xiao Chang followed up with a short prelude and immediately entered the main spin. Xiao Bei began to recite the nursery rhyme when the first note of Suala Duo Lai Mi Sola rang out. We just met and played by the river. The sand was piled high, and the mud was smeared on his face. You said I was naughty, and I said you were silly. A lollipop was bitten into two halves. She smiled at him, and his mouth was as sweet as hers. One day, you said you wanted to go far. Our fingers hooked, and we missed the mountains and rivers. I don't know what time it was, or what year it was. Beside the unforgettable beach, there was still water gurgling. It was already late at night, and the moon was hidden from view. The rosy clouds chased the bright moon, separated by a single heart. Sua duo, duo duo, sua duo, duo duo, sua la duo lai mi sola la duo lai mi sola. Xiao Chang's harmonica also entered the next section at this time. It was the same beginning, but the difference was that the harmonica was added to the accompaniment. It sounded like there were some other chords that were like blues and tango rhythms at the end. The children in the tribe did not know what song it was. They only felt that it was very sad, especially the content of the interpretation. Many of the children pouted, and their eyes turned red when they thought of leaving. Su Ilong was stunned and speechless. He had heard this song before. It was Rainbow Clouds Chasing Moon. There were many people who played and hummed this song in many places in the Tang Dynasty. Some even wrote lyrics. He always felt that this song written by Wang was very beautiful. Whether it was the beginning or the climax, it was the same. The whole song was like the waves, layer upon layer. Moreover, he knew how to play it and received the cheers of the other officials of the same generation. Especially when he was happy, he would play it twice. But it wasn't until today that she understood that this Rosy Clouds Chasing the Moon wasn't a happy song at all. It was a song of longing that was difficult to meet despite being separated by a long distance. Those layers were not waves, but the lingering feelings of the heart. And Xiao Yuan used a nursery rhyme to express the true meaning of this song. Xiao Jiang's harmonica continuously used single-note vibrato, accentuation, and accompaniment to express this feeling of longing and reluctance incisively and vividly. Did everyone hear it? Did you see it? Is this kind of paper good? Xiao Bei acted as if nothing had happened and asked the other children with a smile. Su Ilong felt that his chest was tight and his stomach was uncomfortable. He wanted to vomit blood to reduce the pressure on his body. You can't play like this. I want to die. How can you be like this? The key now is rainbow clouds chasing moon, okay? If it's not a damn white paper, can you still distinguish the priority? Su Yilong felt sad for Xiao Yuan. He thought to himself, Xiao Yuan, is your role just to cooperate with the white paper? Don't you know how many people who treat this as a happy song will feel ashamed when you understand the feelings of rainbow clouds chasing moon so thoroughly? Looking at the children in the tribe, Su Yilong felt balanced in his heart. Sure enough, the children did not think about the white paper. They were also affected by the song that was accompanied by the harmonica just now. One by one, they had not recovered yet. Looking at the situation, they wanted to play together and then had no choice but to part. After that, they could only chase after the moon like the rainbow clouds. But they could not catch up. Brother Yilong, what are you doing? Help me. Tell them. Is this paper good? Xiao Bei's voice suddenly came. Okay. Su Yilong's mouth moved. Chapter 1353. Look, our Tang Empire's very knowledgeable and handsome young master also admits that our Tang Empire's children use good paper. Then I want to ask, do you all want to go to Tang Empire? Do you all want to play with many children of the same age? As long as you open your eyes, there will be many children to play with you, and there will be endless good food. Do you all want to? Xiao Bei continued to sway the white paper. At least that was what Su Yilong thought. Yes. The children shouted in standard Tang Empire's language in unison. Su Yilong felt that just vomiting blood was not enough to express his feelings. He should cry bitterly, the kind that shook the 9 skies. He was really convinced. He finally understood what it meant to have telepathy. Could it be that Xiao Yuan could not write anything else? Could he only write such a simple and touching nursery rhyme? Obviously not. Xiao Yuan's literary talent was definitely not limited to this. It was very easy for him to write more profound and beautiful poems. However, little Yuan had chosen such a nursery rhyme. Its composition was so shallow that it would make countless people laugh at it. Its content, when matched with the tune of rosy clouds chasing the moon, made people unable to laugh. He did not distinguish himself. He only cooperated. What a mother * King tacit understanding. The moment Xiao Yuan asked Xiao Zhu to write, he knew what Xiao Bei needed. The two of them did not speak, nor did they exchange glances. But Xiao Yuan knew what to do. Xiao Bei also knew how to choose the song. Their purpose was simple. It was nothing more than to let the children of the tribe feel the pain of playing together, and then parting, and then tell them that they did not have to part in Tang Empire. At the last moment, Xiao Bao and Cuckoo were in charge of persuading the adults of the tribe to follow them to Tang Empire, while Xiao Bei and the rest could let the children of the tribe to assist them. How the hell are they going to let people live? I finally understand what strategic thinking is. The cooperation of Xiao Yuan, Xiao Zhu, Xiao Chang, and Xiao Bei is only one part of the strategy. Su Yilong felt a chill in her heart. She finally understood why the officials of the Tang Empire were so afraid of Xiao Bei and the other patrol inspectors. What was truly frightening was not the fact that they had committed 5 crimes, but the fact that there were 10 or 9 patrol inspectors. The most frightening thing was that they clearly knew everything, but pretended not to know when they were dealing with you. Thinking of this, Su Yilong no longer had any jealousy in her heart. It wasn't that she didn't want to, but she couldn't. When the gap was too big, there was no way to be jealous. She could only be envious and work hard to achieve this goal. He didn't know how Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan had raised this group of children. Why didn't his master and elders teach him like Xiao Bao and Cuckoo did? He was also jealous of the chemistry between Xiao Yuan and Xiao Bei. Usually, he would see Xiao Bei bullying Xiao Yuan, and Xiao Yuan always looked like he was easy to bully. However, it was clear now that Xiao Yuan was not easy to bully. He was just coaxing Xiao Bei, just like how Xiao Bao coaxed Cuckoo many times. However, if someone thought that people like Xiao Bao and Xiao Yuan, who were afraid of women, were easy to bully, they would instantly feel the fury of Xiao Bei and Cuckoo. They would definitely fight to the death. Definitely. Su Yilong unconsciously said the words in his heart. At this moment, he also hoped that he had a girl, like Xiao Bei or Cuckoo, to accompany him. It was okay to give in a little. A man who could make his woman happy was definitely happier than a man who was feared by others outside. Brother Yilong, definitely what? Xiao Bei had already completed her task. Now, the children in the tribe were learning mathematics from Xiaohai. So she went near Su Yilong and asked him. Definitely. Yes, you lied to them. Su Yilong woke up at the crucial moment. How did I bully them? Xiao Bei raised her head and asked. You said white paper. How many pieces of white paper does Tang have? When they arrive at Tang in the future and realize that the paper they use is not as white as the one you took out, how are you going to explain it? Su Yilong thought of what happened before and asked casually. Xiao Bei blinked her eyes. That kind of white paper can't be used to write calligraphy. After writing, you will realize that the ink soaked back and forth. When the paper was processed, lime was added, and then talc was added. It can only be used to write with a pencil. In the future, I will teach them how to write with a brush. First, take out some white paper. After they write a few times, they will definitely feel that it's not good. This way, I won't have to worry, right? You this? Xiao Bei, you even schemed against children? You took out white paper to attract people, and then used a brush to change it. I am a child. Brother Yilong, I am also a child. What are you going to do to me? Xiao Bei looked at Su Yilong with a very cute look. Su Yilong squatted down and hit his head with both hands, muttering, Long live the Emperor. Your Majesty, I finally know why you put Xiao Bei and the rest in the position of Tang Patrol. It's too torturous. I swear, if I were a local official, I would do my job well. I won't be greedy at all. I want to be loyal and patriotic. Brother Yilong, I support you, Xiao Bei said in an understanding manner. Su Yilong hugged her head and fell to the ground. She rolled a few times and lay there looking at the sky. She found that the blue sky was still there, and the clouds were floating. The sky was clear, and the days could be leisurely. Everyone experienced the leisurely days on the way. Seymour Domo discovered a fact that was not good for him. As the people in the tribe changed into new clothes and could eat good food every day, his existence became less and less obvious. The people in the tribe no longer talked to him. Every day, they happily did things according to the orders of the Tang people. They were more diligent and more proactive than before. The people in the tribe that he originally controlled had a happy expression on their faces, as if it was a happy thing to be able to work for the Tang people. Regarding this, Seymour Domo only felt annoyed and regretful. He realized the reason, that hateful and terrifying Xiao Bao and Cuckoo actually adopted a new method. It was a point system. How much prey was hunted, how much firewood was collected, and how many wild herbs and mushrooms were harvested would give corresponding points. A warrior in the tribe who hunted a tiger alone was first reprimanded and deducted points. Because he did it alone with a spear, it was very dangerous. Therefore, the team deducted points from him, saying that he should have cooperated with others. Unless it was a critical moment of life and death, he could only do things on his own. 8 points were deducted. 8 points was the value of Two Tails assault, and 8 points could be exchanged for Two Tails assault. Of course, it could also be exchanged for other things. After the deduction of 8 points, he was immediately given 20 points. Because of his bravery and strength, the tiger that he hunted was indeed worth these points. But there was also a warning. The next time he went out to hunt a big animal, it would not be as simple as a deduction of 8 points. When this person in the tribe got his points, he exchanged them for a set of beautiful clothes for women. Then, one of his women ran to this person's side and completed the wedding in the Tang ceremony. He also received extra blessings from Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, who gave him a set of ceramic utensils worth more than 10 kilograms of salt. Seymour Domo knew that these things on the surface were not the most important thing. What was important was that his own people were ignoring him. His woman was taken away by someone else, and it was the kind of relationship that both parties were willing to have. Seymour Domo was very sad and helpless. He really could not compare to the person who hunted the tiger alone, whether it was in terms of strength or courage. But he was not satisfied. After traveling for another day, he found an opportunity. He said to the person who was in charge of guarding him, "I think you are more powerful than your leader." "Who?" The person came over and asked softly. "Zhang Xiaobao. Look at your body, then look at him. He does not have much strength. You can definitely kill 2 people like him, but now you are following him and listening to him. I feel sorry for you." Seymour Domo sighed and said. The person who was chosen by him thought for a while and said softly, "Did you see wrongly? The young master can fight 2 people like me. It's not a life and death battle, otherwise he can kill 5 people like me. I was chosen from the 4th generation of guards, but I'm not good at fighting. When I was chosen, the 3rd generation people could beat me like I was a toy. You are afraid, so you think he is powerful. Just like me in my tribe, I am not powerful, understand?" Seymour Domo thought that he found an opportunity and said. The person nodded. "I know. I also found that you are very weak, so there are only 6 people protecting you. If you can be like Little Master, there will be at least 20 people protecting you, and they will all be the 1st generation guards. You don't understand Little Master, so you think he is easy to bully. In this hot environment, if we were betting on Little Master, I would be dead now. You don't know Little Master's killing methods. He is more powerful than Little Lady, but he doesn't make a move." The person couldn't help but shiver as he spoke. Obviously, he had seen Little Master's actual performance. At that time, he jumped on roofs and ran on walls. At that time, he adapted to the terrain. At that time, he used spear and knife skills. At that time, he used close combat methods to exchange injuries for lives. Seymour Domo didn't know and was very puzzled. He looked at the person beside him and continued to persuade. "Don't think too much of him. Even if you punch him, he will dodge. I can see that you are very strong. Little Gongzi won't dodge. When I attack him, he will block and dodge. He will stick close to me, and the next moment I will fly away. And even if I fly, Little Gongzi will continue to attack me. Do you think I don't know? Little Gongzi practices Bajiquan, body hardening skill, and the will to fight with his life on the line. Then go catch Cuckoo and use her to threaten him. I can see that Xiao Bao cares a lot about this woman." Seymour Domo didn't give up and continued to persuade. He thought he had a chance. "I can't beat this little girl. I can think of a way to kill her, but don't even think about capturing her. In my manor, there are also some women, like me, who are in charge of fighting. They have a name. They are called the Overlord Flower. Perhaps because of their physical conditions, they have a weaker physique, but their willpower is higher than mine. If I can't catch them, they will hurt themselves to hurt the enemy. In reality, when their arms are caught by me, they will use the method of breaking their arms to complete their attack. The little lady is such a person, so the little Gongzi has never used force to oppress the little lady." "Then you think you can make me betray you? I am telling you this because the journey is too long, and I have nothing to do. At the same time, I want you to know what kind of people you are facing. You think they are the same as you? You want me to deal with my family's young master and young madam? F***CK, look at the other 5 people around you. If I had hesitated just now, I would have died. You're such an idiot. Brother Wang, why don't you believe me?" The person who was talking to Seymour Domo looked at Seymour Domo with disdain and asked the person beside him with a bitter face. "It's not that I doubt you, but you know the rules. If someone is close to Seymour Domo, the rest of us will have our guns loaded. If I am close to you, are you sure you won't load your gun?" The person who was called Brother Wang didn't change his expression at all. "You see, brother, it's not that I don't want to give you face and make you waste your time, but I have no choice. I also have parents and children. Then why are you telling me this?" Seymour Domo didn't understand. Do you want to be with your people in the future, and you can get more women? The person who was called by Seymour Domo asked. Chapter 1354. As the group continued to move forward, Seymour Domo became more well-behaved. When the group passed by a certain place to rest, he took the initiative to make contact with the locals. He said that he was sent by the king and that he could lead others to a better life. By the time they left the territory of the Kamanagbo kingdom, he had successfully recruited more than 300 people to follow behind the group. Of course, the children were still under the care of Xiao Bei and the others. Seymour Domo had finally regained his authority. The people who had been tricked by him saw that the things provided here were indeed good. They did not think about anything else and obediently followed him. They listened to Seymour Domo's lecture. Then the strong men dispersed to listen. They returned to other places and told others about this set of theories. Then they went to the agreed meeting place and waited for the person who could bring them happiness to come and pick them up. They held sharp knives in their hands, as well as dozens of kilograms of salt and canned food. Seymour Domo had agreed with them that they would get 10 jeans of salt for every person they brought. If they were able to get more people, they would get an additional jeans of salt. If they were able to get more people, they would be able to get an additional jeans of salt. If they were able to get a dozen people in a month, then they wouldn't need to get more people in half a year. If they didn't want salt, they could exchange it for other things, such as powerful and easy-to-carry crossbows or silk clothes. After the people who were recruited by him heard this, they felt that it made sense. If they put their children in the group, they wouldn't have to worry about anything else. They could put all their effort into recruiting people. While Seymour Domo was happy that his beautiful days were getting closer and closer, Xiao Bei and the others thought that they had found a new continent. When the group stopped to wait for the people and animals that they had sent out, Xiao Bei found his brother and sister. "Brother, give me 10 strings of money." Xiao Bei extended his chubby hand. What? Zhang Xiaobao didn't have money on him. He spread his hands, indicating that he couldn't afford it. "You can pawn something for 10 strings of money. I'll tell you a way to make a lot of money." Xiao Bei didn't withdraw his hand. Zhang Xiaobao rummaged through his body and took out 2 small copper beads. He said to his sister, "Nowadays, copper is also very valuable. All right, this time I'll count your hidden weapon as valuable. My method is to say the same thing to the others, and then have them give you the money. Then you give me the money. Every time you succeed, you get 1/10 of the money. Then they go and say it again. What about you? I can just wait to get rich, right? Even if I say 10 successful missions today, even if I don't complete all 10 missions, I'll only say one a day. A month later, it'll still be 30. Their chances of success aren't high. 1 a day, 900 in the second month, and 27,000 in the third month. According to the formula, I'll definitely be a millionaire in half a year. Do you have the formula?" Zhang Xiaobao asked his sister with a smile. Xiao Bei blinked and stuck out his tongue. "Formula? Is it mathematics? Using a mathematical method to calculate, for example, if I go to someone else and they give me 10 strings of coins, I'll give you the money? What about me? The person I find will go to someone else. What about him? You have to make it seem reasonable for others to be willing to join. That's right, it needs to be calculated back and forth. The people below will get less than me, right? No, if they get less than me, why would they give me the money?" Xiao Bei thought it through very well. When it came to the specific organizational situation, she realized that it wasn't simple. She looked at her sister, hoping that she could give her an idea. Wang Wan patted her forehead. In the end, someone thought of it. "Xiao Bei, your method won't work. No one is willing to give you money for free. Moreover, if they can persuade others to give you money, why would they give it to you? So, I'll give you 2 methods. One is to get people to buy the new products of your precious candy house. 1 candy costs 50 strings of coins, and then get this person to help you sell the candy. First, let them brag about your candy. This is good, That is good. How much can they get from selling one candy? How much can they get from the next level? When they sell a certain amount, they'll be promoted. Wang Wan knew that pyramid schemes weren't good, but she was willing to explain this to her sister. She didn't believe that the little ones would be poor enough to participate in pyramid schemes. Xiao Bei thought about it and shook her head. No, how much is the candy worth? People aren't fools. No matter how luxurious it is, they can't sell it at such a high price. Moreover, there are more and more people participating. Everyone will eat candy, right? Then, the second method. Actually, your brother is better at this than me. You prepare some capital, not too much, and then use you as a bank. You collect deposits and give high interest. At the same time, you get this person to help you collect deposits and still have high interest. The more people he finds, the higher the interest. Your marketing concept is investment. The more money you have, the easier it is to make money. You exaggerate your funds, and then others will believe you. Isn't it the same wherever the money is? You can get more interest by saving it for you. Wang Wan glanced at Zhang Xiaobao and explained to Xiao Bei. Xiao Bei furrowed her brows and clenched her fists. She said with a bitter face, "What happens in the end? There are two outcomes. One is that you do have the ability to invest in finance and earn more profits than you give away. This way, you can make money. The other is that you don't have the ability, and then the market collapses. You take the money and run away. The other people who invested later will cry." As Wang Wan spoke, she looked at the sky in the distance. She seemed to be reminiscing, but also seemed to be at a loss. Isn't this cheating? If the interest is low, people won't come. If the interest is high, how can we earn? Xiao Bei sighed. It's not cheating. It's just a private capital operation. Isn't it the same if the money is stored in a bank? The bank will take out loans and use the money earned to pay the interest. At the same time, they will keep a portion of the profits. It's just that the risk is too high, and it doesn't match the overall economic stability of the Tang Empire. That's why your brother and I don't allow them to take out high-interest loans in private. Instead, we try to perfect the functions of the bank, including small loans for families, as well as venture investment for the production and research of the new real economy. Not every loan will make money. Some will even lose money. Not every venture will get a corresponding return. But these are all allowed. Wang Wan introduced the inside of the bank to Xiao Bei. She only mentioned it briefly and didn't go into too much detail. Even if she did, Xiao Bei wouldn't understand. Xiao Bei nodded, looking very depressed. So it's like this. I thought we were the first to think of it. Others probably thought of it long ago, but no one dared to do it. Are there any other loopholes to exploit? There are. Wang Wan didn't expect Zhang Xiaobao to answer such a small question. She could easily explain it clearly. For example, shares. Our family has a cooperative relationship with many businessmen in the Tang Empire, including your precious candy house. Can this note be traded? No, you can't. If you sell the note, everyone will buy and sell. It will be chaotic, Xiao Bei said firmly. Then can I use the restaurant that belongs to me as collateral in the bank? Wang Wan asked. Yes. Xiao Bei nodded. Then let's open a restaurant together. I need money. Can I put my part of the restaurant as collateral to the bank? Wang Wan asked again. Xiao Bei was stunned. She immediately figured out what was going on and continued to frown. I know. If you say no, it's obviously unreasonable. If you say yes, then you have to put the note as collateral. And if you don't want to continue the cooperation, you're just selling the note. No matter who comes to buy it, what will you do? Set up a place to trade shares and notes. Everyone can buy and sell notes there, Wang Wan replied. Why not now? They're all doing private transactions, right? Xiao Bei thought of a problem. Wang Wan smiled and said, yes, a small number of them are doing private transactions. There will be more in the future, but not in the short term. Your brother and I don't have enough manpower, and there are few financial operators. In a few years, you'll know that when a country develops, economic problems will appear one after another. As long as people have desires, they can't stop it. Xiao Bei couldn't imagine what the future would be like. She nodded, not fully understanding. She returned the 2 copper beads to her brother and ran to the other little guys to repeat the story. Seeing his sister run away, Zhang Xiaobao smiled and said to Wang Wan, "Our brothers and sisters are very smart." After discovering what Simo Domo was doing, they actually came up with such a good idea. No matter how good their ideas are, they can't compare to yours. Look at the idea you gave Simo Domo. It's so good and so insidious. Wang Wan thought of Simo Domo, who had been cheated, and felt sorry for his people. She knew that Zhang Xiaobao's plan wasn't an illegal pyramid scheme. It was very reasonable, using people to find people and developing underlings to gain benefits. It could be settled with salt, but it could also be exchanged for other things of equal value. During this process, there was no deception. As long as people came, they would give. The more people they brought, the more things they would give out. The problem was that this was still a slave society, just like the places her team had to pass through. There, Zhang Xiaobao used salt to encourage people to catch slaves, and used slaves to exchange for salt. Now, it was another way of saying it, but it was still encouraging people to catch slaves. When the people before really did exchange for salt and weapons, what would happen to the people who couldn't be persuaded? They would definitely use force to solve the problem. Then, they would form groups and gradually grow in size. They would use the money from selling slaves to continue to tempt others and arm themselves. In that case, the entire area would be included. What would happen to this place in the future? Zhang Xiaobao looked very innocent. He looked at Wang Wan with a confused expression and asked, "Who did I accidentally hurt again?" "No, you're helping others." "I used the wrong word just now." Wang Wan looked back and said, "Thank you. I'll forgive you this time." Zhang Xiaobao sighed. Brother, there's a telegram. We've been contacted again. Look." As Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were talking and joking, a group of little guys rushed over. Xiao Bei led the way and waved the translated telegram in his hands. Zhang Xiaobao took it and glanced at it. He stuffed the telegram into Wang Wan's hands and said, "Someone is restless again. They think that I can't deal with them because I'm far away, right?" Wang Wan also read it and handed the telegram to Xiao Bei for them to play with. She said to Zhang Xiaobao, "Previously, I was talking to Xiao Bei about illegal pyramid schemes and stocks. This time, there's futures. I remember someone from Japan was playing this game. This is just a game of warrants. Now that food futures have appeared, can't they stop?" You're tuning in to the Echo Reads YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.